Little Star let out a childish sigh. Mommy told me and my brothers to tell everyone we're 3 this year, but we're actually 4. Will our noses grow long now? Gu Union couldn't help but laugh. She leaned in, rubbing her nose playfully against Little Star's, teasing her. Then Mommy lied too. What if Mommy has to grow a long nose with you? Little Star thought about how her nose would grow long, her eyes turning slightly red as she fought back tears, with a choked sob. She took 2 quick breaths and said, Then let's just say it's hereditary in our family. Anyway, if everyone in the family has a long nose, it wouldn't be strange. Gu Union was nearly overwhelmed by how adorable Little Star was. She leaned in and kissed her little cheek, saying, How can my Little Star be so sweet? Chapter 200. He won't come to our house to steal. After chatting for a while, Xiaoxing grew sleepy, fell asleep not long after, but even in sleep, she covered her nose and whimpered. My nose didn't grow longer. Gu Union planted a kiss on her forehead, utterly overjoyed. Just as she was about to sleep, the phone on the table suddenly rang. Gu Union glanced at it and was surprised to see it was John Seaching. She frowned slightly and hung up immediately. Yet, he called again almost right after. Seeing that he wouldn't answer and seemed prepared to keep calling all night, Gu Union cautiously left the bedroom and picked up the phone. For a moment, no one spoke on the call, only the sound of clear breathing could be heard. It's so late. What does 4th young Master Jean want by calling? If you don't speak, I'm hanging up. Jean Seaching chuckled softly on the other end, his voice low and hoarse, carrying an overbearing tone. Open the door, Gu Union. Gu Union's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Thinking of the most likely answer, her expression darkened. What kind of drunken nonsense are you spouting in the middle of the night? If you want to act crazy, find someone else. Don't bother me. I'm hanging up. She quickly ended the call, but her mind was in turmoil. Could that guy really show up at her doorstep, though she had tried her best to keep her whereabouts secret? In Huaju, as long as John Seaching wanted to track her down, it might be difficult, but not impossible. But what if he did find her, as long as she didn't open the door? He wouldn't be able to get in even if he came. Gu Union snorted and turned back to the bedroom. However, after she hung up the phone, she didn't know that the 2 little ones had secretly sneaked out of the bedroom. They turned on the robot's switch and quietly had it open the door to let them both out. The robot developed by Lu Yenchuan's lab hasn't hit the market yet. It's the latest model with integrated functions including reconnaissance, theft prevention, anti-kidnapping, household chores, and security. Both Xiaotian and Xiaochen found it incredibly cool. Since they couldn't properly test it indoors, the 2 little ones somehow gathered enough courage to sneak outside. No one knows where they got such boldness. Their family lived in a villa district with a large open space in the yard. Xiaotian looked toward the gate and said, Mommy told us not to go out. If she finds out, she'll definitely be angry. Xiao Chen puffed up his cheeks like a steamed bun and spoke with a childish yet serious tone. We're not going out ourselves. We'll send the robot to beat that guy up. He definitely won't tell Mom, and we won't either. Mom will never find out. Didn't you hear him calling Mom just now? He bullied Mom so much before, and now he dares to come harass her again. Back then we were too young to do anything. But now we have Great-Uncle's robot. Why should we be afraid of him? Besides, he just asked Mom to open the door, which means he must have found our home. Xiao Tian, if we don't protect our Mom now, our whole family might get stolen. Xiao Tian thought about it and realized his brother had a point, his face showing disapproval. But he's so rich, why would he come to our house to steal? Xiao Chen was nearly exasperated. It's just a figure of speech, an example, a metaphor. Okay, who said he'd come to steal money? He might steal you, or me, or Xiaoxing, or even Mom. Upon hearing his words, Xiao Tian's expression immediately turned serious. Should we send the robot out to beat him up right now? Wait, let me scout the terrain first, Xiao Chen said, leading Xiao Tian to the monitoring room. His small, soft hands flew across the keyboard, and soon an image appeared on the computer screen, precisely capturing Zhon Xiqing's location. Xiao Chen snorted coldly. He really did sneak up to our house. Let's drive him away while Mommy and Xiaoxing are asleep. Xiao Tian clenched his little fist. Okay, His chubby little hands, resembling lotus roots, pressed a few times on the robot's body. The robot, originally in peaceful mode, suddenly changed and activated alert mode. Chapter 201. You bullied our mommy. The two little ones secretly released the robot from the back door, sending it to find Jean Sicheng. Meanwhile, the two of them secretly hid in the surveillance room, quietly peeking at the screen, although Jean Sicheng had been drinking. He wasn't drunk and remained highly alert. He immediately noticed something was wrong the moment the robot appeared. He just didn't expect his own son to be such a troublemaker, mistaking it for a new weapon deployed by his enemies to attack him. So he swiftly dodged the robot's attack and began fighting it barehanded. Although robots are quite powerful, they are ultimately a bit too rigid. They might work against ordinary people, but they're no match for Jean Sicheng. First, remove the arms. Then shut down the control circuit board. In no time, a perfectly good robot was reduced to a pile of scrap metal in his hands. Little Xing and little Tian were so angry their faces turned red. They had just gotten the robot tonight, never expecting it to be destroyed by Jean Sicheng. Without another thought, they angrily ran out to confront Jean Sicheng and demand an explanation. When Jean Sicheng saw the GU family's gate open and two little children running out, he was completely stunned. His gaze fell on Xiao Tian, who bore some resemblance to Xiao Chen, and he was utterly astonished. Xiao Chen rushed over like a little cannonball and then crashed into his leg. Take that, you bad guy, how dare you dismantle my robot? Xiao Tian was also furious, his eyes turning red as he glared at him accusingly. Jean Sicheng, seeing the two of them like this, couldn't help but laugh in exasperation. He grabbed one in each hand. Was that robot just now your little scheme to ambush me? Xiao Tian's face was tense, his expression cold as he stared at him. You bullied our mommy. Did you really think we wouldn't get revenge? Xiao Chen raised his neck high and snorted. So what if I am? Jean Sicheng let out a cold laugh. Nothing much. Except I'll have to ask your mommy how many children she actually has. Xiao Tian and Xiao Chen panicked slightly upon hearing this. Suddenly, I remembered how GU Union had them pretend to be 3 years old, keeping it a secret from their biological father. The two of them suddenly realized that due to their reckless behavior, they had directly exposed Xiao Tian to Jean Sicheng's watchful eyes. They had messed up. Xiao Tian and Xiao Chen immediately began to struggle. Jean Sicheng's grip was incredibly strong, holding on to both of them without letting go. The door of the GU family's house wasn't locked after the two of them ran out. Just like that, Jean Sicheng entered with the two little ones and a pile of scrap metal. Xiao Chen struggled violently. You bad guy, let me go. Jean Sicheng's face darkened as he dragged the two of them straight to the villa's entrance. Password. Xiao Chen and Xiao Tian turned their heads. No way, even if you've taken us hostage, it's useless. Don't even think about entering our home. Jean Sicheng curled his lips, his eyes devoid of any warmth, and directly lifted Xiao Chen up, facing him toward the security camera. After the access control system captured Xiao Chen's face, it made a clicking sound, and the door lock opened. Xiao Tian was completely deflated. Just thinking about the words GU Union said to him before bed made him feel life wasn't worth living. He caused such a big trouble at such a young age. Mom is definitely going to be furious tomorrow. And the two of them even led this man into the house. He could hardly imagine what expression Mom would have when she found out. Jean Sicheng walked in with the two little ones when suddenly, the living room lights snapped on. Bright light spilled from the crystal chandelier overhead, causing Jean Sicheng to squint slightly as his eyes adjusted to the sudden transition from darkness to brightness. When he lifted his gaze again, he saw GU Union standing on the spiral staircase. Dressed in a sapphire blue nightgown with a matching robe draped over it, her face cold as she stared at him, Jean Sicheng tugged at the corner of his lips, his black leather shoes sinking soundlessly into the thick carpet. He met GU Union's gaze directly, finding her icy expression unbearably alluring, so beautiful that he couldn't tear his eyes away. Chapter 202. Don't come here drunk and make a scene. GU Union frowned, her expression extremely unpleasant. Her crimson lips parted slightly as she said, if I recall correctly, this isn't the Jean family residence, is it? Fourth young Master Jean. Have you never learned that entering someone else's home without the owner's invitation is called illegal trespassing? If this were abroad, I'd have every right to shoot you dead without facing legal consequences. Xiao Chen and Xiao Tian were tucked under Zhang Xiqing's arms, barely daring to lift their heads to look at Jiyu Union. At this point, the two little ones were of no use to Zhang Xiqing anymore. He simply set them down. I came to see my wife and child. How can that be called illegal trespassing? Besides, Nyan Nyan, even if we were abroad, you wouldn't have the heart to shoot me. Jiyu Yunyan let out a cold laugh, her lips curling into a mocking smile. Next time, you can try and see if I have the heart or not, and I've told you many times, Zhang Sai Chen, I'm not your wife. We're over. There's nothing between us anymore. Zhang Sai Chen's smile widened slightly, his deep eyes fixed intently on her. I've also said, Nyan Nyan, we will remarry. You're my woman, and no one else would dare to have you besides me. Xiao Chen sensed the tension between the two and turned to punch his leg. Don't you dare bully my mommy. He was small and not very strong, so being hit by him didn't hurt at all. Zhang Xiqing pressed a hand against the boy's head, raised his eyes with a faint smile on his lips. But his gaze carried a hint of coldness. Nyan Nyan, just how many children have you been hiding? If I hadn't come today, I wouldn't have known there was another surprise here. Looking at Xiao Tian's face, which resembled Xiao Chen's, Zhang Xiqing's eyes darkened as if reflecting an abyss. Jiyu Union tightened her collar and walked downstairs slowly, stopping in front of him. Her voice was icy as she said, surprise or not, you're not welcome here. Leave now, or I'll call security. Zhang Xiqing hadn't changed his clothes, still dressed in a formal suit, even at this late hour. Apart from carrying Xiao Chen and Xiao Tian earlier, there wasn't a single wrinkle on his attire. He exuded an air of noble elegance, yet his icy eyes carried a hint of gloom and hostility. You can scream. Let's see who in Huaju dares to lay a hand on me. A faint scent of alcohol lingered around him. Jiyu Union frowned. You've been drinking, that's why you're causing a scene here. Whatever you have to say, wait until you're sober tomorrow. Zhang Xiqing grabbed her wrist tightly, his entire aura icy and chilling. What if I insist on saying it now? Jiyu Union looked down at Xiao Tian and Xiao Chen. You two go back to the bedroom first. Xiao Tian clenched his jaw and pursed his lips, refusing to leave, while Xiao Chen also wore a stubborn expression. Seeing how worried they were, Jiyu Union gently patted each of their heads. Be good, go to sleep, it's okay. Zhang Xiqing noticed her gentle demeanor towards the children, and his eyes flickered momentarily, a fleeting shadow of pain passing through their depths before vanishing instantly. Xiao Tian and Xiao Chen were reluctant to leave, but Jiyu Union quickly managed to persuade them. Xiao Chen turned back reluctantly, saying, Mommy, if he dares to bully you, just call for me. Hearing this, Zhang Xiqing let out a derisive laugh. Glancing at his naive son, he coldly retorted, Oh. And if I really do bully your mommy, could you run down here and fight me? Do you think you could win? Xiao Chen snorted coldly. I may not be able to beat you, but I can call my great-grandfather and have him bring my 4 granduncles and uncles to deal with you. Despite the serious atmosphere, Jiyu Union couldn't help but burst into laughter at Xiao Chen's words. Her anger over Xiao Chen and Xiao Tian running around recklessly had already dissipated. Watching the two of them obediently return to their rooms, she finally put away her smile and turned a cold gaze towards Zhang Xiqing. Speak up, since you've come in the middle of the night, ask your questions quickly and leave immediately after. Zhang Xiqing felt a pang in his heart as he watched the smile fade from her face, and his grip on her wrist unconsciously tightened. Jiyu Union frowned slightly from the pressure and immediately raised her hand to strike at him. Let go. Chapter 203. Their father is none of your business. Zhang Xiqing instantly grabbed her other hand, pressing her into his embrace, his voice low and hoarse. You're so gentle with the children, why are you so cold only to me? Nyan Nyan, give me another chance. Okay, the kids need a father, we need to give them a complete family. Jiyu Yunling looked at him coldly. Even if they need a father, it wouldn't be you. Zhang Xiqing, are you talking about those senior brothers of yours? Jiyu Yunling raised her head, her expression proud and aloof. Of course not. The babies have never objected to me remarrying. Zhang Xiqing, you're not our choice. And you never will be. Zhang Xiqing suddenly lowered his head and sealed her lips, preventing her hurtful words from being spoken any further. He kissed her urgently. As if a fire had been burning within him from the moment he saw Xiaotian. Now that fire spread, scorching him with pain throughout his body. Jiyu Union remained motionless, neither resisting nor responding, just as cold and indifferent to him as before. Zhang Xiqing stopped kissing and rested his chin on the crook of her neck. Nyan Nyan, I won't give up, that forever of yours, I'll make it happen soon. He released Jiyu Union and straightened her slightly disheveled clothes. Then pointed at the pile of scrap metal outside the door. Those two little rascals ran out relying on that thing, completely unaware of the danger. Is this the new robot developed by the second son of the Liu family? Tell him not to bother bringing out such junk anymore. Jiyu Union frowned slightly and glanced at the pile by the door, barely recognizing it as the robot Liu Yangchuan had brought over that evening. Looking at the scattered parts, the corner of her mouth twitched. It really did seem utterly useless, but seeing Zhang Xiqing looking so aloof and dismissive, Jiyu Union felt displeased again. She let out a cold laugh and deliberately said, "Don't worry, I'll relay your exact words to my second uncle." Zhang Xiqing's brow twitched as he abruptly lifted his gaze to meet hers. Jiyu Union looked at him provocatively, her expression clearly saying, "I did it on purpose." Zhang Xiqing raised a hand to his forehead and chuckled softly. Nyan Nyan. Do you think telling him would create obstacles for me in pursuing my wife? Jiyu Union rolled her eyes, too lazy to even bother with him, and directly pulled open the entrance door without mercy. Get out. Zhang Xiqing loosened his tie with one hand, and as he passed by her, he suddenly reached out and pressed his hand against the wall beside her, trapping her between his chest and the wall. The faint scent of alcohol mixed with his sharp, cold aura, making Jiyu Union's eyes flicker with recognition. With a stern face, she looked up at him. What else do you want? Are you done with your tantrum yet? Zhang Xiqing gazed deeply at her, then suddenly lifted her chin with his slender fingers, leaning down to gently press a kiss at the corner of her lips. Good night. Watching him leave so easily, Jiyu Union's face showed a puzzled expression. She had thought he would ask about Xiaotian's parentage upon seeing the child, but to her surprise, he didn't ask anything at all. After leaving the Jiyu family villa, Zhang Xiqing got into his car and opened his palm, revealing a soft strand of a child's short hair with its follicle lying in his hand. Since the last time the paternity test results were tampered with, this time when he saw Xiaotian, he wasn't as impulsive. Although he had already made a judgment in his heart, he would patiently wait for the results. The next day, when Jiyu Yun woke up, both Xiaochen and Xiaotian looked a bit listless. When children don't sleep well, dark circles appear under their eyes. The two little ones dawdled their way over to her, puffing out their cheeks and looking pitiful as they apologized. "Mommy, we're sorry." Jiyu Union never really thought she could keep it a secret from Zhang Xiqing for long. Now that he already knew about Xiaochen, Xiaotian was bound to be exposed to him sooner or later. She had actually been mentally prepared for this all along. She wasn't really angry. But the fact that the two little ones had disobediently sneaked out last night had genuinely annoyed her. Jiyu Union kept a cold expression and didn't immediately forgive them. Instead, she asked calmly, "What did you do wrong yesterday?" Chapter 204. Do you know him? Xiaotian lowered his head and said, "We promised Mommy yesterday that we would go to sleep and shouldn't have sneaked out again." Jiyu Union continued to maintain a stern face. "What else?" Xiaochen secretly glanced up at her, puffing up his little cheeks. "I shouldn't have sent the robot out to beat up that man, but it's because he bullied Mommy and even came to our house to harass you that I made the robot go teach him a lesson." Jiyu Union's slender fingers tapped lightly on the table twice as her gaze settled on the two little ones. Her expression remained completely devoid of a smile, making it impossible to tell whether she was satisfied with this answer or not. What else?" Xiaotian and Xiaochen exchanged glances, their faces filled with confusion. Xiaochen tentatively added, "And, we shouldn't have broken the robot that Uncle Chuan gave us." Jiyu Union neither nodded nor shook her head, continuing to ask, "And, Xiaotian and Xiaochen." Little Xing, who had been sitting nearby playing with her doll, couldn't take it anymore. She looked up and shook her head in exasperation, saying in her childish voice, Oh my, brothers, you're so silly. Mommy is angry because you went out on your own at night. Gu Union reached over to gently ruffle little Xing's soft hair before turning back to Xiaoqian and Xiaochen. Do you understand what you did wrong now? Xiaoqian and Xiaochen's faces lit up with sudden understanding as they nodded in unison, looking at Gu Union with remorse. Mommy, we know we were wrong. We shouldn't have put ourselves in danger and made you worry. From now on, we won't run around recklessly anymore. Gu Union took a deep breath and looked at her two sons patiently. Even though you're both smart, you're only 4 years old. Without an adult around, if something were to happen, what would Mommy do? Do you want Mommy to go through something like when Xiaochen was kidnapped again? The two little ones shook their heads vigorously and snuggled up to her, hugging her affectionately. Mommy, we promise we won't do it again. Gu Union looked at their well-behaved expressions and gently ruffled their soft hair one by one. Good children admit their mistakes and correct them. Now, let's eat. The mother and her 3 children had breakfast together. Then the 3 little ones went to school while Gu Union headed to work. Recently, the company received an invitation to the launch ceremony of a film they had invested in. Coincidentally, her 7th senior sister was the female lead in the movie. Recalling how her 7th senior sister and Lu Yangju had left together during the business cocktail party and still unsure about their situation, she decided to attend and see for herself. She had Dai Lei order milk tea and desserts under her 7th senior sister's name to distribute to the crew, while she discreetly made her way to Yang Jing's private dressing room. The film was set in the Republican era, a time of warlord fragmentation. The male lead was a young master from a wealthy family, raised in luxury, surrounded by nothing but opulence and splendor. He had even studied abroad and been exposed to new ideas. He had lived a very happy life until one day his family was attacked by invaders. With everyone slaughtered, he barely escaped under the cover of a loyal servant, narrowly surviving, and was rescued by the female lead. A poor woman of the old society, the film masterfully portrays the themes of home and country, love and hatred, and the clash between old and new ideologies, with excellent pacing throughout. After she invested, Yang Jing saw the script at her place and was immediately drawn to it, which led to her signing on. Gu Union was thinking about the plot of the movie when she accidentally bumped into someone. Be careful, a deep, magnetic voice sounded above her head as the person spoke to warn her. They also reached out to steady her in a gentlemanly manner. Gu Union quickly apologized and, upon looking up, realized the man who had caught her was incredibly handsome. He had already changed into his costume, a crisp military uniform, with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. His deep, profound gaze seemed etched with the marks of time, giving him an air of rich stories. The moment the other person saw her, they visibly froze. The hand that had been gently supporting her arm instinctively tightened its grip. The door to the lounge behind them suddenly opened, and Yang Jing, dressed in a snow-white cheongsam with subtle patterns, stepped out. At the sight of their posture, she raised an eyebrow. Xiao Bia, do you know the movie Emperor Qin? Chapter 205, Nyan Nyan, his ex-girlfriend is your mother. Hearing Yang Jing's voice, the other person seemed to finally snap out of it and let go of their hand. Sorry. I thought you looked familiar just now and got a little carried away. It's fine. Gu Union shook her head and walked over to Yang Jing's side. She looked her up and down, her eyes crinkling with a smile. Senior, you look absolutely stunning in this outfit. Yang Jing tucked a lock of her glamorous curly hair behind her ear, revealing a pair of large, lustrous pink pearl earrings. Of course, I spent ages discussing it with the stylist beforehand. Today's opening scene was about the female lead disguising herself as a modern woman to infiltrate a ball and steal information for the male lead, which was why the two of them were dressed so dazzlingly. The gaze of the award-winning actor Qin unconsciously lingered on Gu Union before he turned back to Yang Jing. Don't chat for too long, we'll start shooting the posters soon. I'll head over first. The man in formal military attire stood with a ramrod straight back. His waist cinched tightly by the belt, accentuating his slender waist and long legs. Gu Union frowned slightly as she looked at him, a trace of confusion flashing in her eyes. Yang Jing nodded. then noticed Ji Union staring intently at the man. She snapped her fingers in front of Ji Union's eyes. Snap out of it. What? Are you into the award-winning actor Chin? That face of his is truly deceiving. He looks like he's in his early 20s when he's actually pushing 50. Ji Union withdrew her gaze and shook her head. Of course not. I just thought he looked somewhat familiar. Yongjing curled her lips, her beautiful eyes rippling slightly as she let out a light laugh. That's good then. The age gap between you two is too big. Although age isn't an issue, he's so much older. He must have long been past his prime. Ji Union. She was speechless for a moment. With so many people around. Aren't you afraid someone might overhear and spread it to the person in question? What am I afraid of? Yongjing raised an eyebrow, her crimson lips slowly curving into a smirk. What can he do to me? At worst, he can just prove me wrong. Ji Union was left speechless by her words. After a long pause, he gave her a helpless look. Senior sister, you're just being unreasonable. How could he possibly prove something like that? Yongjing burst into laughter. Well, that's his problem. Not mine. Don't interrupt me. That's not what I was going to say. Then what were you going to say? Yongjing gently swayed the round fan in her hand, her smile as bewitching as a fox spirit's. No one knows about this yet. I only found out by sheer coincidence. The reason Emperor Qin hasn't married all these years is that there's someone in his heart, but the person he loves is already married, so he's been waiting like this all along. Ji Union gave her a surprised look. Really? No way. He doesn't seem like the sentimental type. Yongjing narrowed her eyes slightly, looking thoughtful. Who knows? I heard the person he likes isn't from the industry, but he did have an ex-girlfriend you'd recognize. Huh, I'd recognize her. Ji Union looked puzzled, seeing her reaction. Yongjing lowered her voice and leaned in. Your mom. Ji Union's cat-like eyes instantly widened into perfect circles. Yongjing smiled, but her gaze remained clear. She half squinted and said calmly. This happened a long time ago. Back then, actor Qin was at the peak of his career, famous throughout Huaju. He even had fangirls willing to die for him. Probably Huaju's first true top idol in the traditional sense. Perhaps afraid of triggering extreme reactions from fans if their relationship became public, they never announced it after getting together. But their relationship didn't last long before they broke up. Later, your mother left the industry and passed away. And the two of them never had any further contact. Ji Union averted her gaze, her brows lightly furrowing. Why are you telling me this, senior sister? Do you think he might be my biological father? Yongjing curled her lips into a smile, her expression charming and affectionate. Who knows? I just heard it from my agent and mentioned it casually. If you're really considering looking for your biological father, you might as well start with him. Chapter 206, Call My Name. As they spoke, the scheduled time arrived, and the assistant came to fetch Yongjing for the poster shoot. Yongjing glanced at her. Come with me. You weren't here during the casting, so this is a good chance for you to take a look together. Ji Union gave Yongjing a look that was both amused and exasperated. What's the point of looking? I don't understand this stuff anyway, and the roles are already cast. It's not like I can just replace someone if I don't like them, right? Yongjing wore a teasing smile as she replied. Why not? You're the biggest investor here. You're the boss. Ji Union didn't take her words seriously at all. She planned to leave as soon as her senior finished filming. She had an international conference to attend in the afternoon and had only squeezed in this visit during a rare break in her busy schedule. Originally, she had intended to ask her senior about how things were going with Lu Yangju, but running into the famous actor Qin along the way had derailed the conversation, and she never got the chance to bring it up. Yongjing's assistant guided her to sit under the nearby umbrella and then went to wait for Yongjing elsewhere. Ji Union sat on the chair, watching her senior sister's beauty that outshone the entire crew, feeling quite pleased. She planned to reward her properly after the filming was done. After all, with her stunning looks and acting skills, if this movie became a hit, it would definitely bring her a substantial share of the profits. Because the Qin actor arrived early, his scenes had already been shot in advance. By the time they started filming Yongjing, apart from a few group photos, there was nothing left for him to do. He glanced at Ji Union and slowly walked over, asking softly, May I sit here? Ji Union was momentarily stunned, looking up at him, under the sunlight. His handsome face appeared even more flawless and exquisite, truly deserving of being the ageless male god who has remained popular for 20 years. Ji Union nodded. Of course, thank you. The award-winning actor Chin sat down beside her, then took a glass of lemon water from his assistant and handed it to her. Speaking naturally, your senior sister will probably be filming for a while longer. It's quite hot today. While you wait for her, would you like some lemon water to cool down? Ji Union gave him a somewhat surprised look. After all, the two of them had only met once before. She had come here today very discreetly, and aside from the director and Yongjing, no one else knew her identity. Logically speaking, given actor Chin's status, he shouldn't have been so friendly as to strike up a conversation with her like this. Ji Union's eyes flickered slightly as she smiled and declined. Oh, no need, I'm not very thirsty, and I'm a bit allergic to lemons. Actor Chin's pupils contracted sharply, his fingertips twitching unnaturally before withdrawing. With an apologetic expression, he said, I'm sorry, I didn't know you couldn't drink that. How about I ask my assistant to get you a freshly squeezed orange juice instead? After speaking, actor Chin even chuckled and rubbed his forehead. Am I being too enthusiastic? Did I scare you? It's just that you look so much like an old acquaintance of mine. And Yongjing is quite a talented junior in the industry who once helped me by chance. Since you're her junior sister, I couldn't help but want to look out for you a little. I see. Ji Union smiled, though it was unclear whether she believed him or not. Her eyes remained calm, devoid of any particular emotion. I wasn't really scared, just a bit surprised by how approachable the award-winning actor Chin is. My name is Chin Jiching. You can just call me by my name. Award-winning actor sounds too distant. Only when Chin Jiching smiled could one spot the faint traces of time at the corners of his eyes. You seem quite interested in acting. Would you like to make a cameo in this film? I can talk to the director and add a minor role for you. Later, during the group scene, you could stand next to your senior sister. With your looks, you wouldn't overshadow her, so the director would surely agree. As soon as he finished speaking, a voice, though clearly suppressed, laced with sharp sarcasm, rang out above their heads. Brother Chin, is this really appropriate? Ji Union looked up and only then realized that, at some unknown time, a female artist wearing a blue cheongsam had appeared beside the two of them. Chapter 207, Is it fun to slander me? Unlike the cheongsam Yongjing was wearing, it was unclear whether the cheongsam on this artist was specially made for the plot or if she had altered it herself. It was extremely tight, clinging to her body and revealing every curve, instantly transforming from elegant to vulgar. Ji Union frowned slightly with discomfort but didn't say anything. As she had never intended to act in the first place, she'd rather spend that time signing another project than filming. The actress in the blue cheongsam showed no awareness at all. She directly pulled out the chair beside Chin Jiching and sat down, placing her script on the table while gazing at Chin Jiching with an affection so intense it could practically form threads. Every second of film footage is meticulously planned. Adding her would mean cutting someone else's scenes, which would harm your reputation if word got out, and besides, her critical gaze swept over Ji Union as she lightly curled her lips. She probably hasn't acted before, right? She doesn't even know how to position herself. If she ends up delaying the shoot and wasting the investors' money, the director and brother Chin won't have an easy time explaining to the investors if they get upset. Chin Jiching's expression turned cold, as if he had become a completely different person when facing the actress. The warm and friendly demeanor he had shown Ji Union moments ago now seemed like her imagination. He spoke coldly. Naturally, that's none of your concern. Focus on delivering your own scenes without needing retakes before worrying about others. The female artist's expression instantly became somewhat strained. Turning unpleasant, she forced a stiff smile. She spread open the script she had just brought over as a prop, pushing it in front of Chin Jiching, then tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and shamelessly cooed with feigned shyness. I was just worried that when it's my turn to perform, it might delay the shooting schedule. So I wanted to come over in advance to rehearse the scene with brother Chin. Her request was quite reasonable, and Chin Jiching couldn't very well refuse. So he nodded in agreement. Without any preparation, he immediately said, "Let's begin." He was already very familiar with the entire script and didn't need to look at it, effortlessly reciting his lines. But the actress who wasn't even here to rehearse with him kept making mistakes. Her lines were all jumbled up, her emotions were off. And she couldn't even find her cues while holding the script. Chin Jiqing's face darkened instantly. "We're about to start filming, and you can't even find your lines with the script in hand. How dare someone like you accuse others of delaying the shoot?" The actress had never worked with him before. She had approached him with the intention of getting close to him, and even if she couldn't, she at least wanted to ride on his fame for some publicity. She just hadn't expected things to go so badly from the start. Not only was Ji Union shamelessly sticking around like a third wheel, but Chin Jiqing was also being so unaccommodating. Her eyes instantly reddened. "I'm sorry, Brother Chin. I was just too nervous." Ji Union couldn't help but burst out laughing beside them. "I've heard before that many actors don't even memorize their lines and just recite 1, 2, 3 for during filming. Don't tell me you're planning to do the same." The female artist abruptly raised her head to glare at Ji Union. "Why do you have to be everywhere? Is it fun for you to slander me like this?" "Slander you?" Ji Union's face showed an indescribable expression. "Fine, if you think I'm slandering you. Then recite your lines right now. If you can do it, I'll apologize to you." The actress's eyes flickered upon hearing her words, a look of disgust flashing in their depths. "Why should I recite it for you? You're just here to visit, not even part of the crew, right? Our production is confidential to outsiders. What exactly are you trying to do by lingering around the set? Are you really thinking of pulling strings to snag a role?" She gave Ji Union a critical once-over, her gaze lingering especially on the other's delicate features, a hint of envy flashing in her eyes. "Every actor in our production was cast through open auditions. There's absolutely no room for backdoor deals. Don't even think about it. You won't get that chance." Ji Union let out a cold laugh. "Including you." The female artist straightened her chest, looking smug and utterly unashamed. "Of course." Chapter 208. "What gives you the right?" Ji Union curled her lips, her expression growing even colder. "Who was the one who chose you back then?" The female artist watched her warily, her voice sharp. "What are you trying to do?" "Nothing much. Just wanted to ask how someone of your level managed to outperform others and sneak in." Ji Union let out a mocking laugh, her gaze filled with faint derision as she looked at her. Perhaps out of guilt, the actress tried to raise her voice to overpower her. "What do you mean? What's wrong with my level? I just didn't perform well earlier. We haven't started filming officially yet. So what if I haven't found my rhythm? I just think your level is a bit low," Ji Union said calmly. "What's going on? What's the commotion about?" The assistant director, hearing the noise, immediately walked over. The assistant director, surnamed Wang, was in his 40s, already balding with a beer belly, yet, the female artiste, upon seeing him, acted as if she had spotted her beloved. Leaning limply against his arm with a syrupy, coquettish voice, "Brother Wang," she pointed at Ji Union and said, "This person isn't part of our crew. Why is she still here? Isn't our crew supposed to maintain full confidentiality, with no visitors allowed to prevent leaks of filming content? Moreover, just now when I was rehearsing with actor Chin, she said my acting wasn't up to par and insinuated that I got in through connections." The female artiste gently rubbed against the assistant director, openly sowing discord. "You were the one who selected me. If she questions me, isn't she questioning your judgment?" The assistant director frowned deeply, his face darkening as he glared at Ji Union. "Who brought you in? Our crew doesn't allow visitors. Get out now." Chin Jiqing, standing nearby, turned cold. Assistant Director Wang, "I brought her here." Only then did the assistant director notice Chin Jiqing, who had been blocked from view, and his expression instantly changed. He put on a troubled look. "Emperor Chin, we signed a confidentiality agreement before joining the crew. It's not that I'm disrespecting you, but rules are rules. I can't just bend them." Although Chin Jiqing is quite famous, very popular, and still a member of the Chin family, however, he had already severed ties with his family years ago, so he couldn't rely on their influence at all. as an assistant director, he had no use for the connections of a top-tier actor. So naturally, he wasn't afraid of offending him. Thus, although the assistant director's expression appeared troubled, in reality, he wasn't the least bit worried. He glanced at Ji Union with arrogance. "I'll have someone escort you out right now." The actress gave Ji Union a smug look, a smile curling at the corners of her lips. "Brother Wang, we should also have someone check her phone. What if she took photos of things she shouldn't have and sells them? All the effort our crew put into keeping the costumes, makeup, and props a secret would be wasted." The assistant director nodded approvingly at her. "Xiao Wei, you're so thoughtful. Let's do as she suggested." Listening to their back and forth, Ji Union couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, checking my phone. Are you the police? Or do you have official authorization to conduct such an inspection? Do you even know what's on my phone? If any confidential information is leaked, causing me significant losses, can your crew afford to compensate me?" The assistant director gave Ji Union a once-over upon hearing this, noticing she was wearing a tracksuit, though the fabric looked decent. It bore no brand label, and she wore no jewelry whatsoever. His gaze immediately turned dismissive. He looked at her with undisguised scorn, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Who do you think you are, acting like your phone contains state secrets? What? Are you some CEO raking in millions daily or a top scientist working on classified projects? Fine, if there's actual damage, what's the worst that could happen? The production team compensates you. Big deal. Got anything in that phone of yours worth it?" Chapter 209. What an impressive display of authority. "Who I am is none of your business, but I know for sure you're no good." Ji Union curled her lips mockingly. "How do you know there aren't any important secrets in my phone? You're just a deputy director. How dare you speak for the entire crew and promise me compensation without authorization? Do you even have that authority?" The deputy director never expected Ji Union to lash out so bluntly, trampling all over his dignity. Instantly, his face flushed with humiliation and rage. He was no longer young, and after all these years in the industry, he remained merely a deputy director. Deep down, he harbored immense resentment over it. What he hated most was others saying that as an assistant director, he couldn't make decisions. Ji Union's words just now had precisely hit his sore spot. He sneered, his anger turning to humiliation. "Stop spouting all that nonsense about whether it's useful or not. I can make decisions. Do you have it on your phone? If you don't blame me for being rude. Disrupting the crew's order is grounds for me to call the police and have you sent straight to the station." Before Ji Union could respond, the sound of applause suddenly came from behind. Yongjing, who had been taking photos earlier, had somehow already finished and was now standing there. She lazily leaned against the chair behind Ji Union, casually clapping her hands with a cold laugh. The assistant director sure has quite the air of authority. Even after seeing her so many times, the assistant director's gaze still flickered with a hint of awe when it landed on Yongjing, but then his eyes darkened. Yongjing had powerful connections, far beyond what a mere assistant director like him could ever hope to touch. All he could do was watch with an itching heart. However, he glanced at Ji Union and suddenly his eyes flickered. His gaze scrutinized her from head to toe as if evaluating merchandise. It suddenly occurred to him. Hadn't Pei Xiaoxiao mentioned earlier that this woman was trying to pull strings to land a role in their production? The female artist beside him noticed the assistant director's look and instantly flared up with anger. I couldn't help but curse inwardly. Damn this disgusting old pervert, eyeing the meat in the pot while still chewing what's in his bowl. What a shameless bastard. If Ji Union actually agreed to the casting couch and went with this old creep, would he kick me out for her sake? The actress immediately tensed up, her grip on the assistant director's arm subtly tightening. Brother Wang, let's not waste time with her. Today's the first day of filming, and we're swamped everywhere. Who has time to deal with some nobody like her? Just let her go. After all, she's under Sister Yang and Brother Qin's protection. We can't afford to offend them. A glint of malice flashed in her eyes, and her tone carried ulterior motives. Her words sounded particularly grating to the assistant director's ears, making him feel even more humiliated. The assistant director let out a dry laugh. Qin, the film emperor, and Yang, the film queen. Though you two want to shield her, let's not forget we've all signed confidentiality agreements, and as you can see, I tried to give you face, but she refused to hand over her phone. Who knows what she might have recorded? Qin Jiqing's gaze turned sharp as a blade when he looked at him. He knew the assistant director was determined to undermine his authority today. He usually doesn't bother with other people's affairs unless they cross a certain line. And even then, he rarely takes things to heart. But the assistant director and the actress had truly stepped on his landmine today. He let out a cold laugh. Are you really determined to throw your weight around with me today? The assistant director laughed brazenly. Qin, the film emperor. How is this throwing my weight around? After all, I'm paid by Global Studios. I have to be responsible to the company. Qin Jiqing narrowed his eyes slightly, staring at Jiyu Yunyan's strikingly similar face. He absolutely wouldn't allow her to be bullied by such an unworthy person. Do you know that Global Pictures belongs to the Qin family? The assistant director was momentarily stunned, then put on an indifferent expression, completely unfazed. Come on, Mr. Qin. Are you using the Qin family to pressure me? Not to mention that the current head of the Qin family is your nephew, even if you could actually interfere in the family's affairs. I've been working diligently all these years without any issues. Chapter 210. You can't replace me. Qin Jiqing couldn't help but laugh in anger. He tugged at the corner of his mouth, watching the shameless expression of the assistant director, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. All these years he hadn't shown his power, and they really thought he was made of clay. He couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on him. Simply gesturing for his assistant to come over and instructing him to make a call to the Qin family. Although he didn't interfere with the Qin family's affairs, it wasn't as the rumors outside suggested. The director, who was so busy he was about to pass out, hurried over. With a dark expression. Though clearly displeased, he suppressed his anger and scolded, I'm busy with the shoot, and instead of working, the assistant director runs off to chat with the lead actors. Then he turned to Yongjing and Qin Jiqing, his attitude softening slightly, glancing at the open script on the table. His eyebrows twitched twice before he sighed helplessly. You're both seasoned actors, no need for rehearsals. Come on, let's get moving. Every day we waste is another day burning money. I'd rather see every penny spent where it counts. This film was his labor of love. He had spent over 5 years polishing the script, and now that shooting had finally begun. He was aiming for a blockbuster hit and awards. He absolutely refused to let anyone ruin his masterpiece. Noticing there were others besides the assistant director and the lead actor, he immediately looked over, consciously shifting his gaze away from the female artist. He landed it on Jiyu Yunyan. His eyes suddenly widened, and his previously gloomy old face instantly blossomed into a smile. You're still here. Would you like to watch the shooting results later? Why don't you sit next to me in a while? At his words, the expressions of the assistant director and the female artist immediately turned peculiar. Though the director didn't say anything, his fawning attitude, addressing everyone with sir or madam, spoke volumes. I wouldn't dare. Jiyu Yunyan raised her hand, pointing at the assistant director and the actress. These two want to search my phone, claiming I got this role through connections and am just here to freeload. They were so self-righteous they wouldn't even spare the face of award-winning actors. They're afraid I might have secretly filmed something on set and even threatened that if any confidential data on my phone were lost, the production team would have to cover all the damages. The director's pupils constricted sharply, and he immediately slapped the assistant director across the face. Bullshit. Who the hell do you think you are to search someone's phone? This is our investor. Our goddamn benefactor. Compensation for losses. You couldn't pay it back even if we sold you piece by piece. They were all from the same company, and the director knew exactly what kind of scum the assistant director was, but he was assigned by the company, so he had no choice but to reluctantly accept it. After all, he would oversee the major direction. As long as nothing went wrong, it would be fine. He never expected that, on the very first day, the assistant director would cause such a huge mess for him. The assistant director didn't anticipate the director's attitude would be so firm and immediately grew somewhat flustered. However, remembering the backing of Global Studios behind him, he felt less afraid. Director, I was just taking responsibility for the crew. Ji Yoon cut him off. Responsibility? By choosing this attention-seeking hack who can't even memorize her lines, the director immediately bowed in apology. President Ji. It's entirely my fault. I sincerely apologize. I never expected such a mistake. I'll replace her immediately. The actress's face instantly paled as she frantically grabbed the assistant director's arm. No, you can't replace me. Just changing the actress didn't bother the assistant director much. Although he had grown quite fond of her recently, if she was going to cause trouble for him, that wouldn't do. He immediately pulled his hand away from hers. Seeing that he was actually planning to abandon her, the actress gritted her teeth and threatened, "If you replace me, I'll expose your production team. I have evidence of your crew's shady dealings with actresses. Wang Biao didn't just exploit me. Several others in your crew got their roles through his backdoor dealings." The director's face instantly darkened as if it had been smeared with soot. Their film hadn't even started shooting yet and was still in the confidential stage. If such a scandal were to break out, it would undoubtedly cause significant damage. He glared fiercely at the assistant director. It was all his fault. Chapter 211. You made up. Gritting his teeth, he cursed with brutal frankness. Go ahead and expose it. I don't want this assistant director anyway. The assistant director's face instantly turned green. Jowan, how dare you replace me? Aren't you afraid Global will replace you or pull their funding? His uncle is actually a high-ranking executive at Global Entertainment, which is one of the reasons why he dares to act so recklessly. He didn't believe for a second that Jowan, a useless guy who only knew how to make movies, would dare to offend a high-ranking executive at Global Entertainment just for the sake of Ji Yoon, a mere small-time investor. Chin Jiching stiffened his expression and glanced at director Jowan, saying coolly, "Don't worry, this script is yours." Global won't replace the director, nor will they withdraw funding. Yong Jing, standing nearby, burst into laughter as if she had heard some kind of joke, her eyes filled with mocking amusement. So what if they really pull the funding? No matter how much is missing, our Xiao BA will cover it. The assistant director was instantly dumbfounded, utterly disbelieving Yang Jing's words, unwilling to accept it. He snorted coldly, "The movie queen sure has a big mouth. Do you even know how many billions this film is investing? And she'll cover whatever's missing. Can she even afford that? Besides, would she dare to offend Global Entertainment?" Yong Jing was practically dying of laughter. She raised her chin high, her expression haughty and dignified. "In this city, there's no investment little BA can't cover, and offending Global Entertainment, you might as well ask if Global Entertainment would dare to offend little BA for your sake. Who do you think you are?" Hearing her tone, the assistant director grew increasingly uneasy, his eyelids twitching uncontrollably. She's actually, Director Jowan, standing nearby, was so furious he could barely contain himself, wishing he could just clamp a hand over the man's mouth. "Shut the hell up. Miss Gu is the CEO of Junction Investments. Do you even know who she is? A measly 400 million yuan film. Don't embarrass yourself by bringing it up." The assistant director let out a gasp, his face turning deathly pale. The female artist beside him also widened her eyes, unable to believe what she had just heard. She stared at Ji Yoon, her gaze lingering on the girl's exquisite face. But this time, not a trace of jealousy rose in her heart. Such a person, with such a status, was someone she could never hope to reach in her lifetime. If only she had known earlier. She was filled with regret. But the director no longer gave her and the assistant director any chance, directly calling security to drag both of them out. Then he called the headquarters of Global to report what had happened here. Sure enough, as soon as they heard that the assistant director had offended the president of Junction Investment, they immediately agreed to arrange for a new assistant director without hesitation, even asking if he had any preferred candidates to recommend. The director hung up the phone, let out a long sigh, and looked at Ji Yoon gratefully. "President Ji, I'm truly sorry. I never expected." Ji Yoon cut her off. "It's fine. It's not your fault. Just focus on making the film a box office hit. That'll be enough to make it up to me." Hearing this, the director instantly relaxed. He was very confident in his own abilities. watching him humming a tune as he asked Qin Jiqing and Yong Jing to prepare for the first scene of filming. Ji Union shook her head with a smile. A small folding stool had been prepared for her next to the director. Sitting there, Ji Union watched the intense chemistry between Yong Jing and Qin Jiqing in their scene and suddenly felt a bit peculiar. After all, Yong Jing might become her future aunt. Qin Jiqing is a suspected candidate for her father. The two of them acted like an immortal couple amidst the flames of war, which made her feel extremely awkward. After standing there and watching for a while, she couldn't sit still anymore. Just as Yong Jing finished shooting and came down for a break, Ji Union walked over and said, "I have a meeting to attend in the afternoon, so I'll leave first. I'll come visit the set another day. Once you finish filming this drama, I'll treat you to a meal." Yong Jing snorted. Go on, busy bee." Ji Union leaned in close to her and suddenly lowered her voice. "Seventh senior sister." Yong Jing lifted her eyelids. I saw you and Lu Yangju the other day. Did you two make up?" Ji Union asked. Yong Jing curled her lips slightly, her beautiful eyes filled with an air of aloof arrogance as she cast a faint glance at her. "Just a casual night between two adults, that's all." Chapter 212, that's the ex-husband after divorce. Ji Union raised an eyebrow as she looked at her completely indifferent demeanor. "You've really moved on, I don't believe it." She always felt that if her seventh senior sister had truly let go of Lu Yangju, she wouldn't still have any connection with him. If seventh senior sister still can't let go, she's willing to help out with a push. Yong Jing had her assistant touch up her powder and said calmly, "You've already let go of Zhon Xiqing, so what do I have to hold on to? Alright, hurry off to your meeting, or you'll be late." Ji Union glanced at the time and realized it was indeed getting tight. Besides, it seemed she wouldn't get anything more out of her senior sister. So she snorted and decided to let it go. After visiting the set that day, Ji Union had been busy with company matters. Unexpectedly, as she was leaving work in the evening, she saw Lu Yangju standing by her car. She raised an eyebrow, looking at him with an inquisitive expression. Lu Yangju showed no awareness of being an uninvited guest. Today, he was dressed in a sleek, smoke-gray suit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, exuding the air of a refined scoundrel. He adjusted his glasses with one hand, smiling faintly and elegantly as he said calmly, "Nyan Nyan." Ji Union crossed her arms, giving him an unwelcoming glance. "What a rare guest. What brings you here?" "Mom asked me to come and see if you have time to bring the kids home for dinner tonight," Lu Yangju replied, his expression remaining perfectly calm. Ji Union let out a long "oh," then said, "Couldn't you just have called? Why did you come all the way to my office?" Lu Yangju tugged at his tie and gave her a deep look. "You blocked me, don't you remember?" Hearing this, Ji Union responded with a half-hearted and perfunctory adding, "Sorry, I forgot. Did that really happen?" Seeing her not even take out her phone, let alone release him, Lu Yenzhou's brow twitched slightly. He pressed his fingers to his temple with one hand. "Nyan Nyan. Are you planning to cut all ties with me for your senior sister's sake?" "I'm not." Ji Union curled her lips, her eyes bright. "If I really wanted to cut all ties with you, I would have turned and walked away the moment I saw you. Would I still be listening to you talk?" Lu Yangju let out a low chuckle. "Yet you haven't even called me uncle once. You even called Laro-san uncle. That's different." Ji Union raised an eyebrow slightly as she looked at him. "Third uncle risked his own safety to fight young Master Zhon for me." I was deeply moved. A flicker of astonishment flashed in Lu Yenzhou's eyes, followed by a sudden chuckle. "Then if I beat him up for you now, would you forgive me?" "Fourth Master Lu's tone is rather presumptuous," came a calm male voice from not far away. Ji Union turned her head and saw the door of a black KN open in the distance. Zhon Xiqing stepped out, holding a bouquet of fiery red roses in his hand. His gaze towards Lu Yangju was icy, his movements somewhat casual, but when he handed the rose to Ji Union, his expression turned serious. "Just airlifted from abroad, such a large bouquet of roses, strikingly crimson." Immediately caught the attention of employees from both Zhongshan and Yingfan companies as they left work. "It's been so long since I've seen the CEO send flowers. I thought he'd given up." Today is another day to be mesmerized by the CEO's wife's beauty. By the way, Who's that handsome guy standing opposite the CEO's wife? Oh my, he's so charismatic. Is this a case of two men fighting for one woman? The CEO's wife is really in high demand. Bullshit, that's the Liu family, fourth master Liu Yangju. Haven't you heard the rumors? Our CEO's wife is actually the child the Liu family lost 20 years ago. What kind of gossip is this? Holy shit, tell me more details, Yingfan employees whispered cautiously, overheard by Zhongshan staff nearby, who immediately snorted in disdain. Stop calling our CEO your CEO's wife. Okay, our CEO GU divorced your CEO long ago. An ex-husband who's already divorced shouldn't come back to haunt people. Got it, exactly. They keep saying our CEO is your CEO's wife. What a joke. Can your CEO not stand on his own? If he's so devoted, why did he divorce our CEO for another woman back then? Chapter 213. Miss, I don't want to work hard anymore, seriously. Their company is always trying to ride on our CEO's coattails. Our CEO GU is young, beautiful, and incredibly capable. She could have any man she wants, with plenty of young hunks lining up for her. Why would she ever go back to a man who hurt her so badly? Before Liu Yangju and Zhong Xiqing could even react, employees from both companies suddenly started arguing. One word from you, one from me, and they almost came to blows. GU Yunyan was not far away and had already heard the content of their argument. Unable to hold back, she burst into laughter. Zhong Xiqing naturally heard it too. His face darkened as if ink could drip from it, and a chilling aura radiated from his body, the killing intent in his eyes almost tangible. Seeing this, GU Yunyan's expression turned cold. What are you doing? You dare to act but can't handle others talking about it. Liu Yangju also chuckled lightly beside him. Fourth young master Zhong, those people were right. Our Liu family's little princess doesn't eat her words. From now on, Nian Nian has the backing of our Liu family. You'd better stop harassing her. She's no longer the helpless orphan who could be bullied at will 5 years ago. After a pause, he deliberately added, our Liu family isn't short of money, and Nian Nian herself is wealthy. She doesn't need an arranged marriage at all, even if you're from the Zhong family. You're nothing in Nian Nian's eyes. Our Nian Nian is so outstanding. Wouldn't it be better to find a young, energetic, kind-hearted puppy who knows how to take care of her? Zhong Xiqing's deep, dark eyes fixed on GU Yunyan, his jaw tightened, and his lips pressed into a thin line. Seeing that she showed no intention of denying it, a wave of bitterness surged in his heart, leaving a sour taste in his mouth. His icy gaze shifted to Liu Yangju. Only because you're Nian Nian's family do I tolerate your behavior, Liu Yangju. Don't push my limits, I'm challenging you. What can you do about it? Liu Yangju unfastened his cuff with one hand, his movements deliberate. You're already old, our Nian Nian doesn't like you anymore. And you're neither fresh nor appealing like the young guys. You should really know your place. I'm old, little uncle. Zhong Xiqing let out a cold laugh. From what I know, you're the one who's the old cow eating tender grass, aren't you? Liu Yangju, barely in his 30s, felt as if countless knives had been stabbed into him, his face darkening instantly. He never expected that the first time he'd be called little uncle would be by Zhong Xiqing. Just thinking about him makes me angry. He let out a cold laugh and met the gaze without hesitation. Fourth young master Zhong, please show some self-respect. I don't have a nephew as old as you. The tension between the two was palpable, and it seemed like a fight was about to break out. Yet, unexpectedly, the key figure at the center of it all had already left their side. GU Yunyan walked straight over to the employees of Zhongshan and Yingfan, handling the conflict between the two companies with a gentle attitude, which actually left the employees blushing with delight. Not only were the Zhongshan employees looking at GU Yunyan with starry eyes, but even a bold employee from Yingfan shouted, President GU, do you still need a pet, one that's been to college, has a Ph.D., and can clean up after itself and use the toilet? Miss, look at me, I don't want to work hard anymore. Zhong Xiqing, in an instant, the air within a 10-mile radius around him seemed to freeze from the chill emanating from his body. His face was dark with fury, his eyes sharp and cold, ignoring Liu Yangju. He quickly walked to GU Yunyan's side and glared at the employee who had shouted, his voice icy. Which department are you from? The employees were stunned, having acted on impulse without realizing they would be caught by the company's CEO. Instantly, they cowered like quails, too afraid to make a sound. Jean Sicheng chuckled, his deep voice sending a shiver down their spines. No problem, your year-end bonuses for this year, all cancelled. Chapter 214. Don't be afraid, your uncle is here. Because of Jean Sicheng's words, all the employees at Yingfan fell silent, seeing the situation freeze in an instant. GU Union took the opportunity to poach talent. If any of you are considering a job change, feel free to submit your resumes to Zhenshin's HR. Whether you pass or not, your information will be kept confidential. So don't hesitate to apply. Zhenshin's salary and benefits are completely transparent in the industry, unlike some people who cancel bonuses at will. Jean Sicheng, who was being subtly criticized, couldn't help but laugh in anger. He scoffed, his voice deep and magnetic. Nyan nyan, poaching my employees right in front of me. GU Union glanced at him sideways. So what if I did? Jean Sicheng wasn't angry anymore. He curled his lips and said hoarsely, after all, we're family, if you need it. It's not impossible for Yingfan to train talents for you. GU Union. She gave the shameless man a cold glance, her delicate eyebrows slightly raised. Whose family with you? The man beside her had restrained his usual intimidating coldness that kept strangers at bay. His gaze rested lightly on her, adding an air of unreality to the moment. He looked at her quietly, his eyes burning with an intense heat. It's always been that way. GU Union suppressed the inexplicable feeling in her heart and snorted, don't flatter yourself, keep dreaming. She turned and walked toward Lu Yangju. Didn't you say Grandma asked me to come home? Let's go now. I don't want to waste time with irrelevant people. But before she could take 2 steps, a strong force suddenly gripped her arm from behind, pulling her backward abruptly, and she fell into an embrace filled with a refreshing scent. The man held her from behind, his warm breath brushing against her ear as he lowered his head, sending a tingling sensation through her. His voice was deep as he murmured, Nyan Nyan, you forgot the flowers. With that, he placed the enormous bouquet of roses into her arms. The dazzling roses and the man's fervent embrace left GU Union momentarily dazed. He hooked his arm around her slender waist, tightening his grip slightly. I'll go see our son tomorrow. Having said that, he abruptly released her before she could struggle. Before letting go, GU Union actually felt his soft lips brush against her neck, whether intentionally or not, leaving behind a faint kiss. GU Union, in front of so many people. He actually dared to make such a blatant move. GU Union was furious and picked up the bouquet of roses, ready to hit him, with so many people watching. Have you no shame? Jean Sicheng grabbed her wrist and chuckled lightly. If there were fewer people, it would be okay. Then tomorrow, Pa. GU Union's face darkened instantly, her eyes widening in anger. Jean Sicheng curled his lips, letting out a soft chuckle from his throat. Just teasing you. If you don't accept the flowers, then I'll. Before he could finish, GU Union cut him off sharply. Get lost. Jean Sicheng's eyes darkened momentarily as he reached out to grasp her chin, his thumb gently caressing it. Be good, Nyan Nyan. With that, he turned and got into the car. When he glanced sideways, the refined contours hidden in the shadows appeared even more strikingly handsome. His slender, well-defined fingers gripped the tie, giving it a gentle tug. His thin lips curled slowly into a faint smile as he said, See you tomorrow. The car window rolled up gradually, obscuring the man's face. It also concealed the sudden darkening glint in his eyes. Lu Yangju frowned beside them. Just now, when GU Union and Jean Sicheng were speaking, their voices were so soft that he couldn't hear clearly. Seeing such blatant behavior, his expression darkened instantly. Nyan Nyan, what did he threaten you with? Don't be afraid, with your uncle here, I won't let him bully you. GU Union withdrew her gaze and glanced at Lu Yangju. You'd better handle your own affairs with my senior sister first. Lu Yangju was immediately left speechless. His expression tightened slightly, and his gaze gradually deepened. Where has your senior sister been lately? Chapter 215. Receiving the deserved punishment, GU Union gave him a strange look, crossing her arms. You're asking me, it's not like my senior sister has gone into hiding in the mountains. With your capabilities, Fourth Master Lu, shouldn't it be easy for you to find out her whereabouts? She won't let me investigate. A trace of helplessness flickered across Lu Yenzhou's handsome yet aloof face. Gu Union raised an eyebrow, suddenly recalling Yang Jing's tone on set. A somewhat gloating smile appeared as she shrugged. Since my senior sister won't tell you and doesn't allow you to investigate, asking me is pointless. I won't tell you either. Figure it out yourself. Lu Yangju. This time when visiting the Lu family, Gu Union specifically brought along the 3 babies and prepared gifts, making it an official visit. Xiao Tian, Xiao Chen, and Xiao Xing were not shy at all and quickly became the darlings of the Lu family, old Madame Lu and old Master Lu, being elderly, particularly adored children, especially since these children were born to Gu Union. They loved them even more. Each of them prepared lavish gifts for the 3 little ones. Gu Union didn't stop them. As they were already family, and none of them were short of money, refusing would only seem overly polite. The 3 children, who had never experienced anything like this before, were having such a great time at the Lu family's home that they didn't want to leave. Their sweet words brought endless smiles to the elderly couple's faces. Eldest uncle Lu Yanhong noticed this and walked over to Gu Union, speaking earnestly. Nyan Nyan, thank you. Gu Uni raised an eyebrow. Uncle, why are you suddenly thanking me? Lu Yanhong's lips curved into his usual gentle smile, but it held a touch more sincerity when facing family. Ever since you went missing and your mother passed away, for over 20 years, your grandparents have never laughed as joyfully as they did today. I should be the one thanking you. He looked deeply at Gu Uni. Thank you for being willing to accept the Lu family, and thank you for genuinely embracing us with your heart. Gu Uni smiled, her eyes clear and unclouded. It was you who treated me with sincerity first. I don't like owing others. Whoever treats me well, I'll treat them well in return, and vice versa. Lu Yanhong was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly burst into laughter. He raised his hand and patted Gu Union's head, saying, "It seems that the family will have to treat you even better in the future to keep you around." Gu Union, already in her 20s and a mother of 3. She reached up to touch the spot where she had been patted, feeling a bit unaccustomed to it. After having dinner together, the elderly Mrs. Lu called her, and she followed her into the study. Old Mrs. Lu affectionately took out a box, gently touched it, and then smiled at Gu Union. I have to say, you really do look so much like Zhenzhen, and Xiaoxing resembles you too. Nian Nian, you've suffered all these years. If your mother knew you've finally been found, she would be so happy down there. She opened the box, revealing a small golden locket inside. This was specially made for you when your mother was pregnant with you, but because the birth was so sudden, there wasn't time to put it on you before you. Old Mrs. Lu paused for a moment before continuing. Though you're all grown up now and don't need it anymore, this was Zhenzhen's heartfelt wish as a mother, and the only thing your mother left for you. I've always wanted to give it to you myself when we found you. Finally, this day has come. The little golden lock was exquisitely crafted. Gu Union froze for a full minute before finally accepting the small sandalwood box. The tiny golden lock inside the box felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. She gently took out the golden lock, softly tracing the engravings and blessings on its surface. All these years, she had believed she was actually abandoned. To her surprise, she had always been loved. Her eyes grew slightly sore as she touched the golden locket, and in her mind, she could almost picture a pregnant woman gently stroking her belly and speaking to her with tenderness. It was as if she could see her mother patiently preparing everything for her, eagerly awaiting her arrival into the world. A glistening tear fell onto the golden locket with a soft plop. Gritting her teeth, she turned to old Madame Lu and asked, "Who was that agent?" Old Madame Lu sighed, a trace of hurt and pain flashing in her eyes. After what she did back then, she received the punishment she deserved. By my reckoning, she should be about to be released from prison soon. Gu Union's expression turned cold, a sharp glint flashing through her exquisitely beautiful eyes. Just going to prison is too lenient for her. If it weren't for her selfishness back then, I wouldn't have been separated from you all for so many years, and my mother wouldn't have died from depression because of it. Chapter 216. He couldn't possibly. The word mother felt utterly unfamiliar to Gu Union. Yet the moment she spoke it, it rolled off her tongue as naturally as if she had said it thousands of times before. Suddenly, her movements paused as she lifted the golden lock and examined it carefully. It was only then that she noticed. Apart from the patterns and blessings on the golden lock, there were 2 uppercase letters engraved in an inconspicuous spot, Zamp, Q. She narrowed her eyes slightly and asked thoughtfully, "Grandma, do you know what name my mother originally planned to give me, old Mrs.?" Lou was taken aback. As if she hadn't expected the question, after thinking for a long while, she shook her head. Back then, she was always busy trying to finish all the contracts she had taken on before her belly got too big. Later, when her belly was already large, I often visited her, but she never mentioned it to me. GU Union gently touched the 2 letters on the golden locket. She actually had a guess in her heart. If these 2 letters weren't her name, then they were most likely the initials of her mother and her biological father. Thinking about it, it made sense. After all, she was the product of their love. If the preceding Z stands for Lucian's Zhen, then thinking boldly, could that Q possibly represent Qin Jiqing's Qing? Although she didn't want to find her biological father, she was someone who liked to plan ahead. Knowing her biological father early would give her peace of mind and prevent her from unknowingly getting involved in trouble later. "Grandma, do you know Qin Jiqing?" "The movie Emperor Qin," GU Union asked casually. Old Lady Lu frowned slightly and pondered for a moment. "The film Emperor, why are you asking about him?" GU Union smiled, her eyes curving into a harmless expression. "I just heard that he might have dated my mom before." Old Lady Lu shook her head. "Anyone is possible, except for him." Hearing this, GU Union was immediately surprised and looked at Old Lady Lu in astonishment. "Why not?" Old Lady Lu sighed. "You're too young to remember, but when Old Master Qin was still alive, he and our old master were very close. The 2 families even arranged a marriage while the children were still in the womb. But as it turned out, both families only had sons in your grandfather's generation, so the marriage agreement was passed down to the next generation. So my mother was betrothed to the Qin family." "Yes, to the eldest son of the Qin family." Old Lady Lu sighed again, looking up at the photo of Lu Zhen displayed nearby. Originally, the 2 families were on good terms, and they grew up together since childhood. The marriage would have been a perfect match, a beautiful story. Who would have thought that wretched boy from the Qin family would insist he only ever saw Zhenzhen as a sister? He already had someone he loved outside the family and would rather leave the Qin family than go through with the marriage. Old Master Qin was furious and directly disowned that wretched boy. But he was stubborn too. He actually went ahead and married that woman outside. With things escalating to this point, naturally, the marriage agreement couldn't be honored. Our Lu family's daughter couldn't possibly chase after someone who rejected her so disdainfully. Your grandfather and I originally thought that since it didn't work out with the eldest, the engagement could just be forgotten. Who would have thought that your grandpa Qin was very insistent, saying if it didn't work with the eldest, then the second son would take his place. But as soon as these words were spoken, Qin's eldest son and the wife he married outside got into a car accident together, leaving only a son still in swaddling clothes. After hearing this, GU Union immediately understood why Grandma Lu had said those words. Back then, because of the engagement, Qin's eldest son went out and ended up dying outside, even though it had nothing to do with her mother. The Qin family couldn't help but resent this marriage arrangement. Naturally, her mother couldn't have any further relationship with the Qin family. Just think about the person currently in charge of the Qin family. It's the child who was left behind back then, and you'll understand the attitude of the entire Qin family. The Qin family patriarch must deeply regret forcing the eldest son to marry her mother, which led to his death abroad. That's why he's eager to compensate the only remaining grandson with everything. GU Union's slender, fair fingers tapped lightly on the table a few times. Unlike Old Lady Lu, after hearing this, she felt it was even more likely that Qin Jiqing was her biological father. However, she didn't share this speculation with Old Lady Lu and simply accepted the golden locket. The truth will always come to light in the end, so she wasn't in too much of a hurry. She just didn't know if her biological father had been aware that her mother was pregnant and gave birth to her. Chapter 217. I have something to tell you about the film Emperor. After Pei Xiaoxiao was kicked out of the film set that day, she went to find the assistant director. Actually, she wasn't that afraid. After all, although Jiyu Union was the president of Zhengxin, her company wasn't primarily focused on the entertainment industry, and her investments in the entertainment world were more of a casual hobby. Her company might be impressive and influential in other fields, but compared to the three giants of the entertainment industry, it was nothing significant. The assistant director had connections at Global Pictures, and she thought she could quickly secure new resources through him. Little did she expect that the assistant director would slap her the moment he saw her and tell her to get lost. Assistant director Wang Biao, seeing Pei Xiaoxiao daring to look at him with that kind of gaze, immediately flew into a rage. He raised his foot and kicked her. "You bitch, after ruining me so badly, you still dare to come looking for me." He kicked her while hurling insults, his face twisted with fury. His daughter was the mistress of a high-ranking executive at Global Entertainment, and because she was sensible and knew how to please, she was quite favored by that executive. That's why he could strut around Global Entertainment, throwing his weight around. Who would have thought that this time, because of Pei Xiaoxiao, he would directly offend Jiyu Union? Upon hearing about the incident, the senior executive not only gave him a severe scolding but also broke up with his daughter. Now, he has been suspended from his position at the company and is under investigation. Pei Xiaoxiao was kicked so hard she nearly broke her ribs. Seeing his ferocious expression, she panicked completely. Realizing that the man before her was already finished, she couldn't hold back anymore and immediately lunged at him. Engaging in a fierce fight, the assistant director wasn't young anymore and had long been weakened by his indulgence in alcohol and women. Within moments, Pei Xiaoxiao had him pinned to the ground and gave him a thorough beating. "Useless old fool, I only flattered you before because you could give me resources. Now you dare hit me when you're already a drowning dog." Pei Xiaoxiao kicked him several times with all her might. Seeing him lying on the ground wailing, completely unable to get up, she spat in disgust, straightened her clothes and hair, and walked out of his office. But venting her anger wasn't enough. The thought of all she'd lost on him made her seethe with resentment. Without the deputy director, her days at Global Entertainment would surely become difficult too. As she pondered what to do next, she suddenly looked up and saw Dong Pei, Global's top star. Her eyes immediately lit up, and she smoothed her hair before chasing after her. "Sister Pei, I have something to tell you about Emperor Qin." Everyone in the industry knew that Dong Pei had a crush on the film Emperor Qin Jiqing. In fact, she had even entered the industry just for him. However, Qin Jiqing had always been cold and indifferent towards her. For all these years, she had been chasing after Qin Jiqing, relying on her privileged background to almost brand him as her own and claim him exclusively. Almost every actress who had even the slightest connection with Qin Jiqing had faced her retaliation. Sure enough, the moment she mentioned Qin Jiqing's name, the person who had previously ignored her with a haughty gaze immediately stopped, casting a look of disgust in her direction. She raised her hand, casually wiping her fingers with a tissue, and spoke slowly. "Go on, you'd better have something useful to say, or else." She let out a cold laugh, her face full of disdain. Pei Xiaoxiao clenched her fists, gritting her teeth to hold back. "What I need to say isn't appropriate to discuss in front of so many people. I have to show you privately." Dong Pei frowned in disgust, not wanting to have any private interaction with her, but since it involved Qin Jiqing, she thought for a moment and still led her into the adjacent lounge. As soon as Pei Xiaoxiao entered, she immediately spoke up. "Sister Pei, you know I recently joined the Republican-era drama co-starring Emperor Qin and Yongjing." As soon as Pei Xiaoxiao mentioned Yongjing, Dong Pei's expression of disgust became even more pronounced. Back when she first heard that Qin Jiqing had joined the production team, she immediately wanted to follow in and play the female lead, only to have Yongjing swoop in and take the role. With old grudges and new grievances, she couldn't hold back her temper no matter what. Seeing that she had taken the bait, Pei Xiaoxiao promptly pulled out the photos and videos she had previously asked her assistant to take and showed them to Dong Pei. At first, she had simply been momentarily irrational, wanting to take the controversial path to fame by riding on the coattails of the film Emperor. Little did she expect that her attempt would backfire, resulting in her being kicked out of the crew. The materials her assistant had shot became useless, until today, when she ran into Dong Pei and suddenly saw a use for them. Back then, the assistant had noticed Ji Union and Qin Jiqing standing so close together, even talking intimately, and immediately seized the opportunity to capture numerous shots from ambiguous angles. Sure enough, after watching the footage, Dong Pei's expression instantly darkened. Pointing at Ji Union's exquisite face in the video, she demanded with a twisted expression, "Who is she?" Chapter 218, How Arrogant. Pei Xiaoxiao's eyes darted around as she deliberately avoided directly revealing Ji Union's identity. Instead, she vaguely mentioned that she was someone brought in by Qin Jiqing, who wanted to pull strings to get her a minor role in the crew. She even embellished the story with details about how Qin Jiqing acted particularly close to her, suggesting their relationship was anything but ordinary. This infuriated Dong Pei. Seeing that her goal was achieved and to avoid getting caught in the crossfire, Pei Xiaoxiao quickly made her exit. Even if Dong Pei didn't say anything, she believed that by providing such useful information, her agent would come looking for her within a few days. Dong Pei wasn't just any ordinary female artist with nothing to her name. The Dong family was one of Huaju's top old-money aristocratic families, a match for Ji Union. She was certain Ji Union would be taught a lesson. It would be the perfect revenge for the humiliation she had suffered before. Dong Pei is 29 this year. Although there's a significant age gap between her and Qin Jiqing, she believes she will eventually become his woman, which fuels her obsessive possessiveness toward him. Ji Union is young and beautiful, and she has even received special treatment from Qin Jiqing, making Dong Pei uneasy no matter what. She acted swiftly. As soon as Pei Xiaoxiao left, she immediately had someone investigate Ji Union, but nothing useful was found. On the surface, Ji Union's records appear clean, stating only that she is an orphan who went abroad 5 years ago and just returned recently. She went through great lengths to obtain Ji Union's contact information and finally managed to arrange a meeting. Ji Union was quite surprised when she received Dong Pei's phone call. The Dong family was merely a second-tier family, and she had never had any connection with them, let alone their daughter who worked in the entertainment industry. She asked Dai Lei to look into it and only then discovered that Dong Pei was actually someone who had feelings for Qin Jiqing. A meaningful smile crossed her face. Initially, she hadn't planned to attend the meeting, but after learning about this connection, she changed her mind. Because Dong Pei is a celebrity, the meeting place was highly confidential. When Ji Union arrived, she was already there, perhaps trying to overwhelm her with presents. Dong Pei's entire outfit screamed one word: expensive. In contrast to Ji Union's comfortable casual clothes and sneakers, the two looked like they were from completely different worlds. When Ji Union went out today, she encountered an elderly person who had fallen on the road. Without hesitation, she helped the person to the hospital, but her clothes got dirty in the process. She couldn't be bothered to go back and change. So she just picked out a random outfit from a street-side shop. The entire ensemble cost just over 1,000 yuan. Dong Pei gave her a disdainful glance and curled her lips in contempt. She had seen plenty of such poor wretches. Did they really think they could latch onto a movie star? But when her gaze fell on that delicate face, her own expression twisted slightly. More delicate and beautiful than her, and younger, her fingers dug into the edge of the table. Sharp nails scraping an ear-piercing noise across the surface. With a cold expression, she spoke. So you're that Ji Union. Dong Pei's appearance belonged to the pure and innocent type, suited for a quiet and unassuming persona. However, because of her near-obsessive infatuation with Qin Jiqing, she simply couldn't maintain that kind of image. Her face was completely twisted with jealousy, yet she tried to force herself to calm down, making her look quite terrifying. She took several deep breaths before finally regaining her composure. With a cold smirk, she said sharply, "Judging by your appearance, you've just graduated from university, haven't you? I never expected someone so young to be so cunning, taking advantage of Ji Qing's kindness to seduce him. But if you're thinking of using him as a stepping stone, you're mistaken." Ji Yunyan's lips twitched slightly. She gave the woman a cool glance, casually pulled out the chair opposite her, and sat down. Tapping her thumb lightly on the table, she said, "Let's get straight to the point. I don't like wasting time, so skip the nonsense." She glanced at her watch. "I'll give you 5 minutes." Dong Pei gritted her teeth. "Do you know who I am? You think having Qin Jiqing backing you up means everything's fine? So arrogant. Believe it or not, I can order your blacklisting right now, making sure you never have a place in this circle again." Ji Yunyan let out a faint "oh." "You called me here just to say this. Go ahead and blacklist me if you can. If you really have that power, I couldn't care less." She checked her watch again. "You've got 3 minutes left. You'd better get to the point." Dong Pei's face darkened. "You, don't get too cocky." Chapter 219, I've got plenty of money. Is this considered cocky? Ji Yunyan twitched the corner of her mouth, her expression carrying a hint of mockery. "Are you sure you want to waste the last 3 minutes talking nonsense with me?" Dong Pei. She could hardly believe her eyes as she stared at Ji Yunyan. Letting out a cold, speechless laugh, she said, "Are you relying on Ji Qing's favor to act so recklessly, thinking I wouldn't dare to touch you?" Her gaze lingered on Ji Yunyan's face, brimming with youthful collagen, approaching 30 herself, even with meticulous care. Her skin couldn't compare to that of a genuinely young girl like Ji Yunyan. Gritting her teeth, she glared coldly at Ji Yunyan and said, "Ji Qing is indeed a good man, but if you think you can bewitch him and win him over just by being young, you're mistaken, since you've already set your sights on Ji Qing. You must have investigated what kind of man he is, haven't you?" Ji Yunyan's lips curled into a faint smile as she quietly watched her. Dong Pei thought she was being provoked and immediately let out a cold laugh. "This isn't exactly a secret in the industry. Ji Qing isn't just an award-winning actor, he's also the son of the prestigious Qin family. When he first entered the entertainment world, he clashed with his family and was stripped of his heir status. If he ever goes back, he'd have to marry a wife of equal standing, someone whose status could benefit him." She cast a disdainful glance at Ji Yunyan, her tone dripping with implication. "Besides, do you really think just anyone can become the second young mistress of the Qin family? Do you believe clinging to him will get you into high society? Little girl, you're being naive. The Qin family would never allow some mere entertainer to step into their halls." Hearing this, Ji Yunyan couldn't help but laugh. She casually poured herself a cup of tea, then lifted her gaze, her eyes laced with mockery. "A mere entertainer. You're an actress in this industry yourself, yet you look down on your own kind. How amusing." Dong Pei's face darkened instantly. "How could I be the same as you?" Ji Yunyan propped her chin up with one hand, lightly tapping her fingertips against it, her tone somewhat casual. "Oh, what's the difference?" Her movements were effortless, like a lazy fox, both alluring and provocative. Watching this, Dong Pei cursed inwardly, her nails digging in so hard they nearly snapped. She lifted her chin haughtily. "My father is the chairman of the Dong Corporation. I'm only in the entertainment industry for fun. I have plenty of money. What do you have to compare with me?" Ji Yunyan curled her lips, slanting her brows as she looked at her, teasingly saying, "How about being younger than you, prettier than you, and richer than you?" Dong Pei couldn't hold back any longer, her face twisting in anger. She slammed her hand on the table. "Ji Yunyan, stop playing dumb with me. Ji Qing would never be with you. If you know what's good for you, get the hell away from him, or don't blame me for being ruthless." "How ruthless? Blacklisting me? You've already said that." Ji Yunyan felt somewhat bored, her curiosity about Dong Pei completely gone. She even felt that taking the time to meet her today was a complete waste, let alone the fact that I have no intention of entering the entertainment industry. Even if I did, I doubt you have the power to blacklist me. Instead of dreaming about that, why not reflect on yourself and figure out why the award-winning actor Qin doesn't like you? Ji Yunyan slightly lowered her eyes, picked up the teacup, gently swirled it, and took a sip. Dong Pei, upon hearing her words, instantly flew into a rage. She grabbed the teapot beside her and was about to hurl it at Ji Yunyan. But unexpectedly, Ji Yunyan moved even faster. With one hand, she seized Dong Pei's wrist, pressing the entire teapot firmly onto the table. while with the other hand holding the teacup, she splashed the contents directly onto Dong Peipei's face. "Auntie, being so impulsive and quick-tempered isn't good for you," she said. "What did you just call me?" Dong Peipei trembled with rage. She was only a few years older than Jiu Union. How dare that girl call her auntie? Jiu Union pressed down on her hand, looking down at her with a faint smile on her face but coldness in her eyes. "Where are your manners? Anger breeds wrinkles. No amount of hyaluronic acid injections can smooth them out. Besides, throwing a tantrum at me here won't do you any good. Piss me off, and I might just have you blacklisted." Chapter 220. Fourth Young Master Jean. "Do you know her?" Dong Peipei was nearly driven mad with fury. Her face was still wet from the tea Jiu Union had sipped and then splashed on her. The mere thought made her itch to claw that face to shreds, but her hand was pinned down by Jiu Union, making it impossible to move. Since her debut, she had risen to the top, not only becoming the leading lady of global entertainment but also winning the Best Actress award. Her personal net worth alone had already reached billions, not to mention she was also the heiress of the Dong family. Though the Dongs weren't among the top-tier elite, they were still a formidable presence in the industry. And now, this young woman with such audacious ambition dared to boast about blacklisting her. She tried to pull her hand free twice but failed, then angrily shouted, "Looks like you'd rather face the consequences than take the easy way out. Bodyguards." Jiu Union raised an eyebrow at her, the corners of her lips curling into a mocking arc, trying to intimidate her with bodyguards. Did they really think she was useless? Even if Dong Peipei had brought 10 bodyguards today, so what? Apart from Zhang Xiqing, was there anyone she couldn't defeat? At that moment, the door of the private room was suddenly pushed open from the outside, and Dong Peipei arrogantly commanded, "Quickly grab that little bitch. How dare she splash water on me? I'm going to teach her a lesson today." "Who are you going to teach a lesson?" A cold, menacing male voice rang out in the private room. Dong Peipei was completely stunned, looking up in shock toward the doorway, hearing the familiar voice. Jiu Union also raised her head and indeed saw Zhang Xiqing, dressed in a black suit, walking in slowly. His gaze was deep and unfathomable, revealing no discernible emotion. His face was taut, shrouded in a haze of gloom and hostility. Dong Peipei widened her eyes, hardly believing what she saw. Fourth Young Master Zhang Xiqing lifted his eyes, his icy gaze settling on her. "Are you causing trouble for Nyan Nyan?" His voice was frigid, as if capable of freezing one's blood solid. Dong Peipei instantly shivered. Upon hearing his address to Jiu Union, she immediately panicked. She subconsciously repeated, "Nyan, Nyan Nyan, Fourth Young Master Zhang. Do you know her?" Zhang Xiqing gave her a cold glance, then instructed Zhong Shuai, who was following behind, "Handle it." Dong Peipei's face instantly turned pale, all color draining from it. "No, Fourth Young Master Zhang, you can't do this to me. My father is Dong Yuanji." Zhang Xiqing didn't even acknowledge her. Not sparing her a single glance from the corner of his eye, Dong Peipei had initially wanted to explain herself, but seeing this, she instantly felt a chill run through her entire body. Her eyes flickered to Jiu Union standing nearby, and suddenly, an idea struck her. She pleaded, "Fourth Young Master Zhang, I truly didn't know she was your woman. I only confronted her because I saw her seducing Ji Qing on set." Hearing Dong Peipei still trying to slander her even while begging for mercy, Jiu Union couldn't help but laugh. Zhang Xiqing walked straight up to her, raised his hand, took out a handkerchief, and carefully wiped her fingers. Lowering his gaze, he said indifferently, "There's no need for you to handle such matters personally. If it happens again, tell Zhong Shuai and let him deal with it for you." Jiu Union was a bit surprised by Zhang Xiqing's appearance here, but she didn't embarrass him in public. Instead, she asked calmly, "Why are you here?" Zhang Xiqing looked up at her, his expression unreadable, and his tone gave nothing away. "I was passing by on business, and the manager mentioned you had an appointment here, so I came to check, and incidentally, to show support." Jiu Union didn't believe a word of it. "What could possibly bring you here, and even prompt the manager to specifically inform you of her whereabouts?" She snorted but remained silent. Zhang Xiqing let out a faint chuckle as he observed the expression on her face. then gently grasped her wrist. Leave this matter to Shui to handle. Shui to handle. Jiu Union raised an eyebrow and cast him a light glance. I don't want to see her in any setting from now on. Zhang Xiqing reached out to pinch a strand of her hair, gently tucking it behind her ear. His entire aura was dangerous yet mysterious, his pitch-black eyes holding an inscrutable expression. Don't worry, he said, Dong Pei was blacklisted overnight. With all her works taken down and endorsements cancelled, it was as if she had suddenly vanished from the entertainment industry. Chapter 221. You're the first. Everyone knew she had offended someone, but no one knew the specific details. The outside world was utterly shocked, especially the longtime fans of Dong Pei. Everyone knew she was the heiress of the Dong family, who entered the entertainment industry purely to chase after men. If even the Dong family could silence her. Just how powerful must the person she offended be? However, unlike the outside world that could only speculate, most insiders in the industry knew that Dong Pei had offended Jiu Union and was subsequently blacklisted by Zhang Xiqing. Recalling the two families that had recently gone bankrupt after offending Jiu Union, everyone felt as if they were witnessing history repeat itself. Having learned from past mistakes, the Dong family dared not make any further moves. Even when their daughter was blacklisted in the entertainment industry, they didn't utter a word. In fact, Dong Jiyuan even prepared an exquisitely expensive gift to apologize to Jiu Union. However, Jiu Union refused to see him. No one knew how anxious he was outside. But the entire circle silently acknowledged one fact: Jiu Union was a woman not to be trifled with. Yet, Dong Pei was unwilling to accept this. She seized an opportunity to sneak out from home and confronted Qin Jiqing. Over the years, Qin Jiqing had grown utterly weary of her. The moment he saw her face, his expression would darken instantly, and he wouldn't even bother acknowledging her, pretending as if she didn't exist before turning to leave. Dong Pei's eyes reddened with anger. She quickly ran a few steps and spread her arms to block his path. Qin Jiqing stopped and looked down at her coldly. Move aside. Dong Pei grabbed the front of his shirt, tears welling up in her eyes. Jiqing. Qin Jiqing abruptly took a step back, pulling his hand away from hers, a flicker of disgust flashing in his eyes. Miss Dong and I are not close. Please don't address me like that. Dong Pei stared at him in shock, utterly aggrieved. Jiqing, how can you say that, all these years? Haven't you seen how much I've loved you? Qin Jiqing curled his lips into a cold smile, his expression dark. There's no law that says I have to take responsibility just because someone likes me. How could you treat me like this? All these years, I've suffered so much for you. I even gave up being a pampered heiress to enter the entertainment industry just for you. It's your own decision. It has nothing to do with me. Qin Jiqing remained unmoved, his expression icy cold. His words pierced her chest like a sharp knife, ruthlessly tearing apart the false narrative she had painstakingly crafted over the years. Dong Pei looked at him in agony. Jiqing, how can you be so cold? Didn't you ever have even a little affection for me? Do you really like that Jiu Union so much? Did you know she's involved with Zhang Xiqing? Just because I met her today, Zhang Xiqing had me blacklisted immediately. Qin Jiqing's face suddenly darkened. You went to cause trouble for her. What did you do to her? Dong Pei bit her tongue hard, the sharp pain bringing back some semblance of reason. Is that all you can think of after hearing this? Qin Jiqing, didn't you hear? She has ties to Zhang Xiqing. While seducing the fourth young master of the Zhang family, she's also clinging to you, flirting left and right, bewitching you men to the point of losing your minds. How impressive. What? Does she serve you so well in bed that? Qin Jiqing raised his hand and slapped her, his gaze terrifyingly cold. Dong Pei, I've never hit a woman before. You should be grateful you're the first. Don't let me hear such filthy words from your mouth again, or don't blame me for being ruthless. Dong Pei had never seen Qin Jiqing with such an expression before and was instantly stunned. I didn't even notice when he left, and when I came to my senses, I stomped my foot in frustration. Since Jiu Union dared to do it, why shouldn't she let me say it? So what if she's the president of Zhongshan? The entire Huaju isn't under her thumb. She won't let this go after suffering such a big loss. As soon as Qin Jiqing left Dong Pei, he immediately called Jiu Union. Chapter 222, Visiting the Sun. When Jiu Yunyan answered the phone, Zhon Siqing was also present. Hearing the deep, magnetic voice on the call, he narrowed his eyes slightly and remarked coolly from the side, "He's not exactly young anymore." Jiu Yunyan gave him a puzzled look. "What does his age have to do with you?" Zhon Siqing looked at him deeply and asked bluntly, "Do you like someone like him?" This time, Jiu Yunyan finally detected the hint of jealousy in his tone. Feeling utterly speechless, she twitched her lips and retorted, "Whether I like him or not. What does it have to do with you?" She turned her head to unbuckle the seatbelt, but suddenly, Zhon Siqing leaned in closer. His cool, refreshing scent instantly enveloped her entirely. He pressed forward domineeringly, lifted her chin with one hand, and without another word, kissed her. He kissed with a hint of impatience, pressing Jiu Yunyan down onto the seat as she was forced to endure the fierce kiss. Jiu Yunyan didn't struggle, letting him kiss her until she was breathless. Only then, finally being released, she gave him a faint glance, but her entire face was flushed pink from being kissed, her eyes shimmering with a dewy glow, and her lips a deep red like cherries. That look of hers didn't have the intended effect. Instead, it carried an unconscious coquettishness. Zhon Siqing's eyes darkened, his gaze fixed on her lips, burning with intensity. "You're my wife. Do you think it has nothing to do with me?" Jiu Yunyan couldn't be bothered to argue with him any further and scoffed, "If fourth young Master Zhon has nothing else, I'll be getting out of the car now." "Wait." Zhon Siqing pressed his hand over hers and retrieved an exquisite box from the side. Offering it to her, Jiu Yunyan didn't take it, merely raising an eyebrow to glance at him. "What is it?" After a brief pause, Zhon Siqing spoke, "A gift, for you and the child." "No need, the baby and I lack nothing." Jiu Yunyan refused decisively and straightforwardly. Zhon Siqing glanced at her and spoke meaningfully, "I know you lack nothing, but this is the first gift I'm buying as a father. Even if you're the child's mommy, you can't just refuse on his behalf without even asking, can you?" Jiu Yunyan let out a light laugh, then directly took out her phone and dialed a number. Soon, the call was answered, and Xiaoxing's sweet, childish voice came through the speaker in the car. "Mommy, when are you coming home? My brothers and I are waiting for you to have dinner." The child's voice was sweet and crisp, falling upon Jiu Yunyan's ears, instantly melting the coldness on her face. She curved her lips slightly. "Mommy will be back soon. Pass the phone to Xiaochen. Mommy has something to discuss with him." "Oh." The sound of Xiaoxing's pattering footsteps came through the phone, and after a while, Xiaochen's voice finally rang out, "Mommy, what did you want to talk to me about?" Jiu Yunyan gave Zhon Siqing a provocative glance before speaking. "Xiaochen, fourth young Master Zhon said that as your father, he wants to give you a gift. As your mommy, I don't have the right to refuse it on your behalf." Before Jiu Yunyan could finish her words, Xiaochen immediately shouted on the other end of the phone, "I don't want it, of course. Mommy has the right to decide. Do whatever you want with it, but I don't want anything from that man." Xiaochen's voice was so loud that Zhon Siqing would have to be deaf not to hear it. Zhon Siqing was left speechless by his son's blunt rejection. Seeing the smug and mischievous look on Jiu Yunyan's face, he couldn't help but find it somewhat amusing. As she hung up the phone, he rubbed his temples in frustration and asked, "Are you that happy? I told you, your unhappiness is my happiness." Jiu Yunyan replied as she unbuckled her seatbelt, ignoring his darkened expression. She opened the car door and stepped out without another word. If her car hadn't broken down tonight, she wouldn't have agreed to let him drive her home. Now that she's home, she naturally has no patience to keep up pretenses with him. Watching Zhon Siqing follow her out of the car, Jiu Yunyan crossed her arms and shot him a sidelong glance. "Why are you getting out too, Zhon Siqing?" "To see my son." Chapter 223, "Don't even think about pleasing me." Jiu Yunyan, she was thoroughly choked up, turned away with a huff, and ignored him. As soon as Jiu Yunyan stepped into the foyer, Xiaoxing happily spread his arms and came running over with a patter of little feet. "Mommy, you're back." Jiu Yunyan bent down and scooped Little Star into her arms, letting the child plant a kiss on her cheek before asking, "Did you miss Mommy?" Little Star nodded eagerly, only to spot Zhon Siqing standing behind Jiu Yunyan. The radiant smile on her face instantly faded. her soft, round face scrunched up in displeasure as she huffed. Why is he here? Gu Union chuckled, ruffling the little girl's silky hair. He came to see Xiao Chen. Where is Xiao Chen? Xiaoxing glared at Jiangxi Chen and reluctantly said, he's upstairs. Then could my dear Xiaoxing call him down for mommy? Gu Union asked. Xiaoxing took a deep breath, her little face puffed up. Fine then. Xiaoxing stomped upstairs. Gu Union changed her shoes by herself, ignoring Jiangxi Chen. Sit on the sofa for a while. Xiao Chen will be down soon. Zhang Xiqing grabbed her wrist tightly. Where do you think you're going? Gu Union smiled sweetly on the surface, but her words were dripping with sarcasm. What, do you still expect me to keep you company? Zhang Xiqing glanced at her. Is this how you treat a guest? Gu Union twitched her lips speechlessly, scoffed, and retorted. Are you a guest? Zhang Xiqing seemed to recall something and suddenly chuckled softly. Indeed. I'm not a guest. When Zhang Xiqing returns home, how can it be called visiting? Right, Mrs. Zhang. Gu Union didn't expect him to be so shameless. She took a deep breath. Fourth young master Zhang. Could you please have some dignity? Zhang Xiqing's voice carried a teasing tone. With dignity. How could I ever win a wife? Gu Union rolled her eyes, turned around, and walked away without noticing that something had fallen out of her pocket. Zhang Xiqing, with his hands in his pockets, glanced down and saw a delicate little golden lock lying on the thick carpet. He slightly bent down and picked it up. The golden lock was exquisitely crafted, clearly designed with great care. His deep voice echoed through the villa. Nyan nyan. However, Gu Union didn't even turn her head, saying coldly, don't call me. If you want to see Xiao Chen, go ahead. If not, leave immediately. Don't expect me to keep you company. Zhang Xiqing slightly raised an eyebrow. Swallowing the words he hadn't yet spoken, upon hearing that Zhang Xiqing had arrived, Xiao Chen refused to come downstairs to see him no matter what. Zhang Xiqing sat on the sofa in the living room, showing no awareness of being a guest in someone else's home. He even instructed the household servants to brew coffee for him. His attitude was so natural and familiar, as if it were his own home. Seeing that Xiao Chen wouldn't come downstairs, Zhang Xiqing simply stayed put without leaving. Unable to stay upstairs any longer, Xiao Chen came down with a face as stern as Zhang Xiqing's, glaring at him with a scowl. Hey, you're not welcome here. Get out. Zhang Xiqing pushed the exquisitely crafted box he had brought towards Xiao Chen. Although you refuse to acknowledge me, as your father, I'm still very happy. This is a belated gift to make up for our first meeting as father and son. Xiao Chen snorted and turned his head away with an air of arrogance. I don't care for it. Yet despite his words, his gaze involuntarily drifted toward the box. The box wasn't very large, and from the outside, there was no telling what might be inside. Thinking about the robot that Zhang Xiqing destroyed last time, Xiao Chen pouted. Don't try to win me over. I won't fall for the enemy's sugar-coated bullets. Zhang Xiqing was both amused and exasperated. I'm your father, giving you a gift. Do you really think it's a sugar-coated bullet? Xiao Chen lifted his chin defiantly. I know you must have ulterior motives. You just want to win me over so Mom will forgive you. Right, no way, not just Mom, even I won't forgive you. Zhang Xiqing raised an eyebrow and leisurely opened the small box, revealing 4 exquisitely crafted individual boxes inside. Really won't forgive me? Zhang Xiqing sighed and deliberately said, I was thinking since I broke your robot last time, I'd compensate you with a new one. He took out a small box from the package, gently opened it, revealing an incredibly cool high-tech sphere inside. Xiao Chen's eyes instantly widened in amazement. Chapter 224. Fourth Dad will beat that man to vent your anger. Do you like it? Seeing the evident interest on his face, Zhang Xiqing raised an eyebrow. Xiao Chen turned away with a huff. I do not. Lying isn't a good habit, Zhang Xiqing remarked with a faint smile, his tone indifferent. Xiao Chen abruptly stood up. Who's lying? It's the person who gave the gift that I don't like. Is that not allowed? Zhang Xiqing nodded expressionlessly. Fine, Xiao Chen. He stole a glance at Zhang Xiqing, surprised to find him not angry at all, a flicker of astonishment flashing through his eyes. Noticing the persistent gaze, Xiao Chen immediately tensed up, his small face turning wary as he stared back. Take your gifts and leave. Don't come again, I won't accept them. Zhang Xiqing curled his lips. Really? He took out a high-tech-looking sphere, pressed something on it. And the sphere quickly transformed into a very compact robot. Zhang Xiqing toyed with it in his palm. This is just the key. The robot needs to be retrieved separately. This is a new intelligent companion robot model recently developed by the Research Institute under Yingfan Group. It hasn't hit the market yet and is better than the one you had last time. Are you sure you don't want it? Little Chen's grape-like big eyes stared longingly, filled with irresistible desire. Zhang Xiqing looked at him with a half-smile. The robot in his palm was an irresistible temptation for little Chen. After struggling internally for a moment, he finally raised his chin high and said, "Since you've invited me so earnestly, it wouldn't be right for me to refuse your kindness. Fine then." Little Chen mimicked Xiao Tian's deliberately mature manner with his childish voice. Looking utterly adorable, a warm glint appeared in Zhang Xiqing's eyes. "Shall I take you there now?" Little Chen's eyes sparkled mischievously. "Why don't you go get it? I'm so small. Mommy definitely wouldn't feel at ease letting me go with you. What if I'm so irresistibly cute that you refuse to let me come back?" Zhang Xiqing looked at his cheeky son and chuckled. "That confident? Huh?" Xiao Chen grinned at him. "Of course, otherwise, would you have chased me all the way home just to give me a gift?" Zhang Xiqing. As the two were talking, the front door suddenly creaked open. The moment Xiao Chen saw Lin Qingxing enter, his eyes lit up with joy. He leaped up and threw himself at him. "Fourth Dad." Lin Qingxing scooped Xiao Chen up in his arms, ruffling his hair. "You've gotten heavier again." Xiao Chen giggled mischievously, clinging to him like a monkey. "I want to eat more and get heavier, so no one can kidnap me again." Lin Qingxing scoffed, raising his eyes to meet Zhang Xiqing, who was sitting upright on the sofa. Zhang Xiqing's gaze was deep and cold as it fell upon him, facing his piercing stare. Lin Qingxing raised an eyebrow. "Since when has this house become open to just anyone?" Zhang Xiqing let out a cold laugh. "I'm Xiaoqin's father, why can't I come? As for you, even if you're Nian Nian's senior brother, isn't it inappropriate for you to stay at her place?" Lin Qingxing let out a provoking hum and said, "As long as Xiao Ba is willing, I can stay." "What? You're not happy about it? If you're not happy, let's fight. If I win, you're not allowed to come to the GU family again. How about that?" Zhang Xiqing chuckled softly, a mocking tone in his voice. "Are you sure about that?" Lin Qingxing's brow twitched violently as he suddenly recalled the time he lost to Zhang Xiqing, causing the corner of his mouth to twitch. He snorted coldly and clenched his fists. "Last time I lost to you because I was careless. This time, I won't go easy on you." Zhang Xiqing didn't move, his gaze somewhat indifferent as he looked at him. "Whatever makes you happy." Xiao Chen jumped down from Lin Qingxing and clapped his hands, eager to stir up trouble. "I'll go get Mommy." As he said this, he was already thumping up the stairs, shouting as he ran, "Mommy, Fourth Dad is going to beat up that man to vent your anger." Zhang Xiqing downstairs, his hand hanging by his side, couldn't help but itch slightly, feeling the urge to hit his son. GU Union was in the study having a meeting when he heard Xiao Chen's shout, and couldn't help but feel speechless. Chapter 225. He actually couldn't do it, her fourth senior brother, fighting against Zhang Xiqing. She admitted that her fourth senior brother was indeed not weak, but when it came to facing Zhang Xiqing, she still felt a bit uneasy. Fortunately, the meeting was almost over, so she gave her instructions and then turned off the video. She casually picked up the already empty coffee cup and went downstairs. Seeing Zhang Xiqing sitting on the sofa without actually fighting with fourth senior brother, GU Union finally breathed a sigh of relief. She glanced at Zhang Xiqing and said, "You've seen Xiao Chen, and you've given your gift. Why aren't you leaving yet?" Zhang Xiqing raised an eyebrow. "What, are you so afraid your fourth senior brother would lose?" Lin Qingxing was instantly provoked by his words, his face darkening. "What do you mean, afraid I'll lose?" "Zhang Xiqing, you come out here. If I don't teach you a proper lesson today, I'm not Xiao Ba's senior brother." GU Union's face momentarily flashed with exasperation. It really wasn't that serious. Seeing that her fourth senior brother was truly worked up, she stopped trying to dissuade him. After all, both of them knew their limits. She simply picked up her coffee cup and headed to the kitchen. Zhang Xiqing noticed Jiu Union didn't even glance at him again, his gaze darkening slightly as he directly accepted Lin Qingxing's challenge. The three little ones all came out to watch upon hearing the news, even after Jiu Union finished brewing coffee. She leaned against the doorway sipping her cup while observing. Seeing Zhang Xiqing didn't even adopt a defensive stance, Lin Qingxing immediately felt he was being looked down upon. He let out a cold laugh and swung his fist straight at him. He lost to Zhang Xiqing last time in the field he was most confident in, which was purely an accident. This time, he won't go easy on him. He unleashed the 7 injuries fist taught by his master, each punch carrying a fierce wind and formidable power. Zhang Xiqing was no less impressive, not only deflecting every move but also displaying martial arts techniques that were nothing to scoff at. The two exchanged blows back and forth, putting on an incredibly spectacular fight. The three little ones watched with unblinking eyes, especially Xiao Chen, whose breathing grew heavier, his little face flushed with excitement. Jiu Uni took a sip of coffee. She knew that although it seemed her senior brother Lin Qingxing was evenly matched with Zhang Xiqing in their duel, having fought Zhang Xiqing so many times herself, she could tell that this time Zhang Xiqing still wasn't going all out. If even Jiu Uni could see it, how could Lin Qingxing not notice? He grew furious and intensified his attacks against Zhang Xiqing. Zhang Xiqing, if you're still a man, don't play fake with me. I don't need you to go easy on me. Lin Qingxing felt utterly insulted. His face darkened so much it seemed like ink could drip from it, and his tone was anything but polite as he spoke. Zhang Xiqing slowly curled his lips into a faint smile. Since you put it that way, I won't hold back. This time, I'll go all out. With those words, he narrowed his eyes slightly, suddenly exerted force, and while throwing a punch, his long leg also swept out in a swift motion. Lin Qingxing immediately raised his elbow to block the punch. The force of the blow was so strong that half of his arm felt numb. He let out a hearty laugh and rejoined the fight. Zhang Xiqing's martial arts moves were progressive and intricately linked. Lin Qingxing knew he was no match for him, but he still wanted to fight with all his might. Even if he lost, it would be satisfying. Xiao Xing had originally thought Lin Qingxing would overpower Zhang Xiqing and beat him mercilessly, but when he ran over, he was so disappointed that he let out a long sigh beside Jiu Union. Hearing this, Jiu Union pulled Xiao Xing closer and asked, "What's wrong?" Xiao Xing didn't have the concept of lowering his voice. Upon hearing Jiu Union's question, he answered clearly, "Fourth uncle actually couldn't do it. I thought he would really beat that man up like second brother said." Xiao Xing meant this purely literally, but when these words fell into Lin Qingxing's ears, he stumbled and almost got hit by Zhang Xiqing's fist. He gave Xiao Xing a resentful look, silently grumbling in his heart, "Xingbao, fourth dad has been so good to you for nothing. You're actually ruining my reputation like this." Zhang Xiqing noticed his distraction and immediately stopped the fist that was about to hit his face. He frowned slightly, displeased. "You're not focused." Chapter 226. If I agree, will you give it to me? Lin Qingxing snapped back to reality and suddenly felt a bit guilty. He touched the tip of his nose, coughed lightly, and tried to cover it up. "Sorry, I didn't react for a moment there." Xiao Chen, standing nearby, saw the two men stop and was instantly confused, not fighting anymore. Zhang Xiqing composed his expression and methodically buttoned up the cuff he had just undone with one hand. No need to fight anymore. The outcome was already decided. Continuing the fight would be meaningless. Lin Qingxing also felt somewhat awkward, losing in front of a child. But this time, he conceded defeat wholeheartedly. Taking out a cigarette case from his pocket, he pulled out one and offered it, saying, "Fourth young master Zhang is truly impressive. May I ask who your master is?" Zhang Xiqing didn't accept it. His gaze indifferent, he glanced at Jiu Union, who was leaning against the doorway sipping coffee, and said slowly, "There's a child here, and Nyan Nyan doesn't like it." Lin Qingxing's hand froze instantly, and he quickly withdrew it. Slapping his own forehead in frustration, a crisp sound rang out immediately, making it clear that he hadn't held back at all, even though it was his own forehead. "Look at me. I'm so confused I actually forgot." He stuffed the cigarette back into his pocket. Zhang Xiqing's deep gaze fell on his face. "You lost." Time to fulfill your promise. Lin Qingxing, GU Union, who had been listening to their conversation nearby, asked, "What promise?" Xiao Chen quickly chimed in from the side. "I know this one. If fourth uncle loses, he has to move out of our house." GU Union gave Lin Qingxing a half-smile, half-smirk look. "Move out? And live where? Master already said sixth brother isn't allowed to take you in." Lin Qingxing guiltily covered his forehead. "I just didn't expect I'd actually lose." Zhang Xiqing silently glanced at GU Union. He'd only agreed to the bet because he didn't want GU Union and Lin Qingxing living together. Not to make things difficult for her senior brother. After hearing this, he pondered for a moment and then said, "I have an empty villa. You can stay there temporarily." Lin Qingxing was somewhat surprised. "Really?" Zhang Xiqing responded indifferently with a simple and added, "It's in this neighborhood. I can take you there now." Lin Qingxing looked at GU Union and said, "Little 8, remember your promise. I'll be leaving now." GU Union was truly exasperated by Lin Qingxing. But she had long known about his unreliability, so she didn't have any other strong feelings about it. She just casually waved her hand. "Do as you please." Lin Qingxing went upstairs to pack his things. He hadn't brought much when he moved in, and most of his belongings were recently acquired, so moving out would be quite convenient. The three little ones didn't expect that after just one fight, Lin Qingxing would actually be moving out. They suddenly felt reluctant and, like little tails, followed behind him. Also heading upstairs, only Zhang Xiqing and GU Union remained downstairs. GU Union placed the coffee cup in the kitchen sink and was about to go upstairs when she was suddenly stopped by Zhang Xiqing. GU Union raised an eyebrow at him. "What do you want?" Zhang Xiqing took out the small golden lock from his pocket and dangled it in front of her. "You dropped this earlier when you went upstairs." GU Union froze for a moment, her expression instantly changing. "How did you get that?" Zhang Xiqing curled his lips and said in a hoarse voice, "I called you, but you didn't turn back. I didn't know if it was important to you, so I was worried it might get lost if left casually on the table. That's why I kept it, intending to give it to you personally." GU Union reached out to take it, but Zhang Xiqing suddenly withdrew his hand, clutching the small golden lock's chain tightly in his palm. His dark, inky eyes were deep and unfathomable, staring straight at GU Union's expression before slowly curling into a smirk. "Seems like it's very important, of course." GU Union paused slightly, raising an eyebrow to glance at him. "Or do you have conditions for giving it back to me?" Zhang Xiqing chuckled softly. "Have dinner together tomorrow." GU Union narrowed her eyes slightly. "If I agree, will you give it to me?" Zhang Xiqing reached out to tuck her stray hair behind her ear, his expression tender, naturally. GU Union slowly curved her lips into a smile, suddenly standing on tiptoe to move closer to him, even wrapping one arm around his neck. Chapter 227. "Don't you want to acknowledge us?" Zhang Xiqing remained motionless, lowering his gaze to look at her. GU Union flashed a bewitching smile, her expression alluring. Then, "Fourth young Master Zhang, set a time." "And I," as she spoke, her hand slid down from Zhang Xiqing's wrist, attempting to snatch the golden locket back. However, Zhang Xiqing directly stuffed the golden lock into the pocket of his suit pants. GU Union's movements paused, and her words stuck in her throat. She stared at him wide-eyed. Zhang Xiqing's thin lips curved slightly, his voice low and hoarse as he pinched GU Union's chin and slowly lifted it. "Why stop talking? Set a time. Will you really come?" GU Uni gritted her teeth, pushed him against the wall, and then leaned in to press closer. Zhang Xiqing didn't move, raising his hands as if surrendering to her. GU Uni lowered her head, her hand slipping into his pocket, trying to pull out the golden lock. However, Lin Qingxing's voice suddenly rang out from behind. "What are you two doing?" Lin Qingxing's face was filled with astonishment as he swiftly herded the three children, who hadn't yet run over, back. Seeing the two separate, Lin Qingxing shot GU Union a reproachful glance. "In public, and with children around. You should at least be mindful of appearances." GU Union noticed the faint smile on Zhang Xiqing's face not far away, and her brow twitched abruptly. The golden locket in her hand still seemed to carry his body warmth, slightly scorching to the touch. She pulled a long face, looking displeased, and glared at him fiercely. "Shut up," Lin Qingxing muttered discontentedly. "I'm your senior brother, yet you show no respect." He glanced back at Zhang Xiqing. Then gave Jiyu Union a thumbs-up gesture before lowering his voice to say, "Little 8, I never expected you to be so wild." Jiyu Union, Lin Qingxing, do you believe I'll tell Master that you've returned to the country? Not only are you not self-reliant, but you're also freeloading off us junior disciples. Lin Qingxing was instantly taken aback and looked at her. "Little 8, you can't backstab me like this." Jiyu Union gave him a light, dismissive glance, "Then keep your mouth shut." After seeing Lin Qingxing off, Jiyu Union no longer carried the golden lock with her but instead stored it in a safe. This was the only memento her mother left her before passing away. She had to keep it safe and couldn't afford to lose it again. Since recognizing the Lu family, Jiyu Union would take the babies to the Lu household for meals every few days. The 3 babies quickly became familiar with the Lu family, and sometimes they would even visit old Madame Lu and old Master Lu without her accompanying them. Old Madame Lu had always wanted to host a banquet for her, announcing her identity to the entire social circle. It's just that Jiyu Union found it troublesome and had never agreed to it. Old Madame Lu immediately became downcast, letting out a long sigh. "Nyan Nyan, tell your grandmother the truth. Do you not want to acknowledge the Lu family? Tell me where we've fallen short, and we'll work on it, striving to meet your expectations sooner." Jiyu Union felt both amused and exasperated. "No, Grandma, I just don't see the need. As long as our own family knows, that's enough." Old Madame Lu grew anxious. "What good is it if only our family knows? People outside will surely think we don't value you and might try to take advantage of you. Besides, I want everyone to see you. How could such a wonderful granddaughter remain unknown to the world?" Jiyu Union couldn't help but burst into laughter, seeing how much Grandma Lu doted on her. The corners of her mouth curled up involuntarily. "How about this? After I finish this busy period, I'll let you take me out to show off, okay?" Compared to how she had refused outright before, this outcome was already quite good. Grandma Lu immediately perked up and quickly shared the news in the family group chat. Telling everyone to get ready, the group chat instantly exploded with excitement. Everyone started chattering away, and just deciding which hotel to hold the banquet at sparked over 99+ messages. Jiyu Union felt a headache coming on from the chaos and quickly closed the chat window. After dropping that bombshell in the group chat, old Madame Lu went offline with a smile, still holding Jiyu Union's hand. "Nyan Nyan, Grandma has one more thing to ask you." Chapter 228. What's delaying work for the sake of one's wife? Jiyu Union was taken aback. "What is it?" Grandmother Lu looked at her with affectionate eyes. "Do you have time tomorrow?" Jiyu Union asked Dai Lei to send her tomorrow's schedule. After glancing at it, she said, "Tomorrow is fine, not too busy. I can make some time." "What's up, Grandma?" "That's wonderful. I'm meeting an old friend tomorrow. She heard that my granddaughter has been found and wants to meet you. We were very close back then. And your mother even learned piano from her." Grandmother Lu watched her nervously, her eyes filled with anticipation. Seeing this, Jiyu Union couldn't bear to refuse her. "Grandma, why don't you set a time, and I'll clear my schedule." Old Mrs. Lu immediately smiled so much that the corners of her eyes crinkled. "No need to go out of your way to cancel things. Just let me know when you're free, and I'll arrange it with her accordingly." Jiyu Union didn't overthink it and had Dai Lei reschedule her less important appointments for the next day, freeing up the afternoon. She then informed old Mrs. Lu of her availability. Old Mrs. Lu was delighted and quickly made the arrangements, sending her the time and location details shortly after. "You can go straight from the company later. There's a car at home, and I'll leave from the old house, so you won't have to make an extra trip and go through all that hassle." Jiyu Union nodded. The next day, she had Dai Lei arrange a car in advance, but as soon as the car left the underground parking lot of Junction, it broke down. The driver was visibly nervous and stammered, "I check it every day, and the car was fine last night." "I really didn't," Jiyu Union interrupted her. "It's fine. This isn't your fault." She glanced at her watch. It was already too late to ask him to bring another car now. She narrowed her eyes slightly, considering simply calling a private car. When a black Cayenne pulled up beside her, the car window slowly rolled down, revealing Jean Siching's handsome and chiseled face. He had just come back from outside, and no one knew exactly what he had been doing. His entire body exuded a chilling aura, even his eyes were clouded with gloom. He glanced at her indifferently, the ice in his eyes melting slightly as he spoke in a low voice. Going out, Gu Union nodded. Yes, I'm going with my grandmother to meet one of her good friends. He took a look at Gu Union's driver, who was sweating profusely from anxiety, and said calmly, I'll take you. Gu Union didn't agree. No need, I'll just call a car. Jean Siching opened the car door, stepping out with his long legs, his deep voice sounding above her head, just giving you a ride. What are you afraid of? Gu Union snorted and rolled her eyes. Who's afraid? What kind of logic is that? I just don't want to trouble you. Oh, Jean Siching slowly curled his lips, lightly tugging at his tie with one hand. No trouble, I'm already off work. Zhong Shuai, sitting in the front row, had a face full of speechlessness upon hearing this. If it weren't for the fear of having his bonus deducted, he really wanted to get out of the car and shake their CEO's shoulders hard. You still have to inspect the branch company this afternoon. Gu Union naturally didn't believe it and couldn't help but laugh, looking at him playfully. Do you even believe what you're saying? It's not even 2 p.m. yet, and you're telling me you're off work. Jean Siching showed no embarrassment at being exposed and calmly said, I'm the CEO. I decide when to clock out. Gu Union was somewhat speechless, her beautiful eyes revealing a trace of an indescribable emotion. Jean Siching stepped forward and grasped her wrist, his tone domineering and leaving no room for refusal. Get in the car. Gu Union let out a self-deprecating laugh, raising an eyebrow as she looked at him. Since you're not afraid of delaying work, what am I afraid of? Without waiting for Jean Siching to pull her, she simply bent down and got in. A glint of amusement flashed in Jean Siching's eyes as the corners of his lips curved slightly. For my wife, what does it matter if some work gets delayed? Gu Union was speechless for a moment. You've made your point. Jean Siching got into the car and closed the door. Only then did Zhong Shuai, who had been quietly sitting in the front seat pretending not to exist, timidly speak up. Hello, President Gu. Chapter 229. Gu Union, have you lost your mind? Jean Sicheng glanced at him indifferently through the rearview mirror. Zhong Shuai suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He wiped his neck and swallowed hard. May I ask where you're headed? After Gu Union gave the address, the driver very considerately raised the partition in the middle. She immediately rolled her eyes in exasperation. Seeing this, Jean Siching curled his lips slightly, deciding to give the driver and Zhong Shuai a raise when they got back. Throughout the journey, Jean Siching was handling official business on his tablet, while Gu Union remained silent. The car was so quiet it even felt somewhat warm. Gu Union couldn't believe there would come a day when she and Jean Siching could sit peacefully together in a car. The trip from the company wasn't very long, and soon enough, they arrived. The car stopped at a traffic light in the distance. With the agreed-upon restaurant just ahead, Jean Siching looked up and gazed forward, his eyes suddenly freezing, because standing at the restaurant entrance was a familiar face, holding an enormous bouquet of red roses. Inside the car, Jean Siching withdrew his gaze and turned to look at Gu Union beside him, his eyes gradually darkening. I'll walk you in and take the opportunity to meet your grandmother. Gu Union didn't notice Bai Yuxiu at the restaurant entrance. Hearing these words, she couldn't figure out what he actually meant. She scoffed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear as she lifted her chin to glance at him. Of course not needed. Fourth young Master Jean, you'd better go attend to your own affairs. Jean Sicheng suddenly leaned in close, his voice low and husky. Not letting me go, are you feeling guilty? Gu Union rolled her eyes and pressed a hand against his chest to stop him from coming any closer. What would I have to feel guilty about? Jean Sicheng lifted her chin, forcing her to look at him. For example, the person you're meeting isn't. Before he could finish his sentence, Gu Union's phone suddenly rang. Gu Union pushed him away and reached for her phone with one hand. But to her surprise, Jean Sicheng suddenly leaned in and kissed her without warning. Gu Union tried to turn her face away, but Jean Sicheng didn't give her the chance to evade. His cool lips pressed against hers, his breath warm as his soft lips tightly molded to hers, meticulously tracing the shape of her mouth. Ji Yunyan's breath hitched, and she felt the urge to punch someone. Zhang Siqing, as if he could read her mind, pressed his hands against hers, forcibly intertwining their fingers in a tight clasp, then deepened the kiss with even more intensity. Furious, Ji Yunyan bit down hard on his lip. The rich taste of blood filled their mouths, yet instead of pulling away, Zhang Siqing seemed provoked, kissing her even more fiercely, until he got hold of Ji Yunyan's phone. Ji Yunyan glared at him fiercely. "Give it back to me." Zhang Siqing's eyes were filled with intense jealousy. The thought of her dressing up so beautifully to meet another man, especially since he was the one who had actively sent her there, made him feel extremely uncomfortable. There was no name saved on the phone, just a string of numbers, and Zhang Siqing had no idea who it belonged to. He pursed his lips, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. "If you have nothing to hide, then answer it in front of me." "On what grounds?" Ji Yunyan stared at him coldly. Zhang Siqing rubbed his thumb over her lips twice, wiping away the lipstick that had smudged beyond the lip line, then pressed his fingertip in forcefully. "On the grounds that you're my woman. I won't allow any other man to lay a finger on you." The phone's ringtone persisted relentlessly. Perhaps because no one answered for too long, it gradually fell silent. The screen had just gone dark when it lit up again. Ji Yunyan snatched the phone from his hand and sneered. "Fine, I'll answer the call. And then you get lost." With those words, Ji Yunyan answered the call and switched it to speaker mode. A warm and kindly voice immediately came through the phone. "Nyan Nyan. Where have you gotten to?" Ji Yuni raised an eyebrow, sneering at Zhang Siqing as she forcefully shook off his hand. Pulling the car door open to get out, Zhang Siqing grabbed her wrist and yanked her back. "What are you doing?" Ji Yuni replied coldly. "I'm getting out of the car." Zhang Siqing frowned, his deep eyes swirling with emotion. "We're in the middle of the road. Are you crazy?" Ji Yunyang forcefully shook off his hand. "Yes, I'm crazy, and it's all because of you. I don't want to spend another minute in the same car with you right now. I must be out of my mind to have agreed to ride with you." Chapter 230. "I mean it this time." Zhang Siqing saw her face flushed with anger. He raised his hand to pinch the bridge of his nose gently. "Nian Nian, I'm sorry, I just lost control earlier." Ji Yunyang looked at him coldly. "You actually know how to apologize. How rare. Too bad I don't care. Move aside, I'm getting out of the car." She absolutely refused to stay in the same car with him any longer. Zhang Siqing pulled her into an embrace. "Stop making a scene. This isn't a place to park. Once we pass this traffic light, I'll drop you off at the parking lot." Ji Yunyan struggled fiercely, her brows furrowed in anger as she glared at him. "No. I don't trust you, you bastard. You never keep your promises. If I believe you again, I'd be a fool." Zhang Siqing realized he had truly angered her this time and quickly tried to soothe her by kissing her forehead and hair. "I'm sorry, Nian Nian. This time I'll keep my word. Once we cross the intersection, the moment we reach the parking lot, I'll let you out immediately, okay?" Although his tone was consultative, it carried an overbearing dominance that brooked no refusal. Ji Yunyan let out a cold laugh and rolled her eyes at him. "No, be obedient." Zhang Siqing's deep eyes exuded a dangerous aura. "Nyan Nyan, I won't let you do such dangerous things. You don't want to be taken away by me and miss seeing your grandmother, do you?" Ji Yunyan took a deep breath, her gaze falling on the roadside not far away, and smiled. "Fine. I won't do anything dangerous either. Just have the driver pull over now and let me out." Zhang Siqing's pitch-black eyes reflected Ji Yunyan's appearance, as if filled with deep affection. "All right." Ji Yunyan's eyes flickered slightly. "Then you mustn't follow me later, disturb me and my grandmother, or send anyone to keep an eye on me." "All right, I promise." Zhang Siqing's tone was somewhat light, his dark eyes flickering with an inexplicable emotion. Ji Yunyan was momentarily stunned, not expecting him to actually agree. A trace of surprise flashed in her eyes, especially when the driver actually pulled the car right up to the curb. Ji Yunyan was even more surprised. Having known Zhang Siqing for so many years, she was well aware that he always meant what he said and never liked others to defy his decisions. She never expected that today he would actually compromise for her sake. She snorted. At least you know what's good for you. Opening the car door, she stepped out directly. With the agreed-upon restaurant still separated by a road across the way, after getting out of the car, she headed straight for the pedestrian crossing. Jean Sicheng remained seated in the car, not immediately instructing it to drive away. The black Maybach, like a knight silently guarding her, came to a quiet stop there. Through the car window, Jean Sicheng quietly watched her. Ji Union was wearing a pale yellow floral maxi dress today. Her long black hair cascading over her shoulders with a charming allure, she paired it with flat sandals, looking youthful and demure. Walking in the sunlight, she drew the gazes of many passers-by. As she stood by the roadside waiting for the traffic light, Jean Sicheng noticed a college-aged boy suddenly stop beside her, holding out his phone and saying something to her. After being rejected by Ji Union, the young man visibly looked disappointed. This scene fell into Jean Sicheng's eyes, and he instantly felt as if he had swallowed a ton of vinegar. Only because of his previous promise, he didn't get out of the car. Ji Union pretended not to notice and, after crossing the street, went straight to the restaurant opposite. When she saw Bai Yuxiu at the entrance of the restaurant, she froze for a moment. Today, Bai Yuxiu seemed to have dressed up deliberately, standing there exceptionally eye-catching. His peach blossom eyes gazed affectionately at everyone, as if brimming with deep emotion, making every passing girl blush, especially since he was holding a large bouquet of fiery red roses in his arms, which made him the center of attention in the crowd. Her expression was somewhat startled. "Young Master Bai, what are you doing here?" Her gaze fell on the vibrant roses in his arms, and a teasing smile curled at the corners of her lips, planning to give these to some beauty. "Are you? I didn't expect that after such a short time apart, you've already set your sights on someone." Bai Yuxiu gazed at him deeply, his dark eyes curved with a gentle and reserved smile. "Of course. It's for our gorgeous Ji. So, will the beautiful Ji do me the honor?" Chapter 231, "Would never look down on you." As he spoke, Bai Yuxiu was about to hand over the rose in his hand. Remembering Jean Sicheng was still behind him, Ji Union immediately refused. "Stop joking around. Don't tease me like this." Ji Union playfully pushed away the rose as if it were all in good fun. "Alright, you wait here for someone. I have an appointment with Grandma, so I'll head in first." Bai Yuxiu's eyes flickered slightly as he instinctively looked up, spotting the familiar license plate not far away. He lowered his head with a light chuckle, a hint of coldness flashing in his eyes. He glanced down at the roses in his hand, knowing she hadn't accepted them earlier and wouldn't in the future either. Holding the roses, he stood lazily in place, pulled out his phone, and after a moment, casually handed them to the first solitary girl passing by before turning to enter the restaurant. By then, Ji Union had already entered the private room. Seeing her grandmother and the elderly Mrs. Bai, she was completely stunned. "Grandma, why didn't you tell me that your good friend was Grandma Bai? If you had told me in advance, I would have definitely prepared a perfect gift for her." Old Madame Lu smiled, squinting her eyes as she patted her hand. "Don't worry, Grandma Bai won't mind." Old Madame Bai also laughed. "So this is Nyan Nyan, right? I've heard your grandmother mention you so often but never had the chance to meet you. Come, let me take a look at you." She held Ji Union's wrist, examined her carefully, and then nodded. "You resemble her. No wonder your grandmother recognized you at first glance. You really do look like your mother," Ji Union said with an innocent expression. "I never expected it either. All these years, I've been living in the countryside and never really followed celebrities. My mother passed away early, so it never crossed my mind that I could actually be a child of the Lu family." Old Madame Bai sighed and casually slipped the bracelet off her wrist, placing it onto Ji Union's. "You poor child, you've suffered so much. But it's good that we've found you now. This is a gift from Grandma Bai, your mother, and I even had a master-disciple relationship back in the day. So you must accept this gift." Ji Union handed over the gift she had prepared in advance. "I didn't know it was you, Grandma Bai, so I wasn't sure what you'd like. I just prepared something simple." When old Madame Bai opened it, she found an old-style silk cheongsam shawl and a white jade bracelet of exceptional quality inside. Old Mrs. Bai burst into laughter and handed it to old Mrs. Lu to see. I gave her one, and now she's returning one to me. Looks like it's meant for the two of us to be the real mother and daughter. I finally got my precious back. Don't you dare try to take her from me, otherwise, the entire Lu family would probably go up in arms and storm your house, old Mrs. Lu joked. Old Mrs. Bai hinted meaningfully as she continued, well, there's nothing to be done about it. I just adore Nyan Nyan. When the time comes, let the younger generation in your big family sort it out among themselves. I'm too old for all that fuss. At that moment, Bai Yuxiu also knocked and entered the room. Seeing them chatting happily and enjoying themselves, she immediately smiled and chimed in. What are you talking about, old Mrs.? Bai gave him a critical look, her tone carrying a hint of reproach. Look at you, you went to pick someone up, but Nyan Nyan has already come in while you're still outside, and didn't I tell you to prepare flowers? Where are the flowers? Bai Yuxiu raised his hand to rub the tip of his nose and gave a light cough. Jiyu Union came to his rescue, saying, actually, I saw Bai Xiao at the entrance and received his flowers, but carrying such a large bouquet was inconvenient, so I just gave them to a passerby nearby. Grandma Bai, don't blame him, look. Knowing someone makes all the difference. The moment they meet, he's already protecting her. Grandma Bai spoke with satisfaction. Old Madame Lu's gaze also fell on Bai Yuxiu, scrutinizing him as if selecting a grandson-in-law. After a critical glance, she finally nodded. Young people these days are familiar with each other. They used to spend a lot of time together and get along well. Now that you mention it, isn't it natural for him to protect her? Jiyu Union felt something was off upon hearing this. She slightly restrained her smile and gave Bai Yuxiu a cool glance. Bai Yuxiu wore a faint smile on his face. His eyes filled with helplessness as he shrugged his shoulders. Jiyu Union immediately covered her forehead, understanding his meaning. Fortunately, the two elderly ladies didn't make it too obvious. They just slightly tugged at each other before stopping. As long as they didn't bring it up, Jiyu Union didn't feel much about it. After all, she and Bai Yuxiu were so familiar, and their companies had collaborations. There was always something to talk about. Chapter 232, there's more to come, old Mrs. Bai shook her head as she looked at the two of them. Look at you two, coming out for a meal and still talking about work. There's so much to do at the company. Can't it wait? Must you discuss it now? Old Mrs. Lu interjected. Oh, come now, they're still so young. And it's not easy for them to manage a company at such a tender age. Besides, they're both CEOs, running their businesses. It's only natural they'd have things to talk about. Why fuss over what they discuss? The two elderly ladies were no longer young, and now they only ate a little during meals. Then he put down his chopsticks and started drinking tea. Jiyu Union ordered quite a few dishes and chatted with Bai Yuxiu while eating. They talked about their initial collaborative project, the future development landscape, and potential projects they could work on together. Before they knew it, an hour had passed. Old Mrs. Bai watched with some helplessness. Seeing that the two had finally stopped and were looking her way, she couldn't help but speak up. All right, we're not like you young folks. Later, your Grandma Lu and I are heading to the beauty salon. You two find somewhere else to continue your chat. I won't keep an eye on you anymore. Only then did Jiyu Union realize she had neglected old Mrs. Bai. She immediately looked apologetic and said, I'm sorry, Grandma Bai, after discussing company matters with young Master Bai. I forgot about you and my grandmother. No need to apologize to me. I know you two feel uncomfortable staying with us old folks, so go out and enjoy yourselves. To their surprise, Madame Bai actually pulled 2 concert tickets from her bag and pushed them toward the couple, as if afraid Jiyu Union would refuse. Madame Bai spoke rapidly. These were originally given to me, but at my age, sitting through a 2 or 3 hour concert is too much. I can't stay still and don't have the energy anymore. You two should go on behalf of me and your grandmother, Jiyu Union. She hadn't expected the 2 elderly women to have another trick up their sleeves. They were truly going to extreme lengths to matchmake her and Bai Yuxiu. She sighed, unable to bear disappointing the kindness of the 2 elderly ladies, and ultimately had no choice but to accept it. Fortunately, she had a good relationship with Bai Yuxiu, and attending a concert with a friend wasn't a bad option. After Bai Yuxiu finished paying, He heard that Jiu Yunyan's car had broken down at the company and immediately realized why he had seen Zhang Xiqing's car at the entrance. He didn't mention anything else, simply saying, "I drove here. Come on, President Jiu, ride with me. Later, I'll drive you home as your chauffeur." Jiu Yunyan smiled. Looking at his teasing expression, she couldn't help but joke, "Then I'll trouble Master Bai." Bai Yuxiu's eyes were filled with tenderness and deep affection. But his words were anything but serious. "All right, wait a moment. Passenger, remember to give a 5-star rating later," because he had a pair of peach blossom eyes that seemed to look at everyone with deep affection. Jiu Yunyan had never thought of him in any other way, only seeing him as a good friend with whom she had a great relationship. Bai Yuxiu knew this too, so for all these years, he had maintained the persona of a good friend without faltering, silently guarding her by her side. Never once piercing through that thin layer of unspoken understanding, because he feared that once he spoke up, Jiu Yunyan would distance herself from him. But this time, with the meddling of old Madame Bai and old Madame Lu, Jiu Yunyan couldn't help but become less casual with him, showing more politeness and distance than usual. When Bai Yuxiu opened the car door for her and helped her in, she deliberately avoided his hand and directly opened the rear door instead. "I already said I'm the passenger. How could I sit in the front seat? That's so uncool." Bai Yuxiu's eyes flickered as he smiled, a trace of disappointment flashing quickly in his gaze. "All right then, passenger, don't forget to tip me later." His car drove very steadily, and they arrived in no time. After checking their tickets, the two of them found their seats and entered the venue. Unexpectedly, they had barely sat down when two familiar faces appeared beside them. Bai Wanwan, dressed in a custom-made white evening gown, had just taken her seat when she casually glanced to the side, her eyes widened in shock. "Brother, what are you doing here? You said you weren't interested in the concert and wouldn't come. You lied to me. No way, you wouldn't come with me, but you're here with someone else. I have to see who it is." Chapter 233. "So you're actually a love fool." Her gaze swept discontentedly toward Bai Yuxiu's side, landing on her delicate brows and eyes, then suddenly froze. "It's you." Jiu Yunyan also looked at her in surprise. "You know me." Jiu Yunyan had been abroad all this time. Although she had interactions with Bai Yuxiu, they were mostly work-related, so she had never met any of the Bai family members before. What a coincidence today. "Not only did I meet Bai Yuxiu's grandmother, but also his younger sister." Bai Wanwan snorted, inexplicably displeased with Jiu Yunyan. "I don't know you, but I've seen your photo." Jiu Yunyan grew even more curious upon hearing this. "My photo? Where did you see it?" "Of course, it was at my..." Before Bai Wanwan could finish, Bai Yuxiu interrupted her. "Wanwan, this is a concert, not a place for chit-chat." He gave his sister a warning glance. Bai Wanwan immediately pouted unhappily and let out a huff. Jiu Yunyan narrowed her eyes slightly as the opening sounds suddenly came from the stage. She couldn't ask any more questions and had no choice but to quiet down. The concert featured many masters, each performance being a feast for the ears. During the intermission, she went to the restroom. Bai Wanwan looked at Bai Yuxiu with dissatisfaction. "Brother, what's this? You actually brought her. Isn't she married? How dare she come to a concert with another man behind her husband's back?" A cold expression flashed across Bai Yuxiu's face. "Wanwan." Bai Wanwan rolled her eyes hard, her tone even more displeased. "Fine, I know you're upset. I won't say it anymore, okay? But I'm your sister, for goodness sake. You actually scolded me for her. Believe it or not, I'll tell Mom. But who am I to complain? I'm the best sister in the world. After all, as long as you give me enough allowance, I'll pretend I never saw anything." "Wanwan, it's not what you think. She got divorced 5 years ago. She's single now, free to be pursued by anyone, and that includes me. I plan to marry her, so be polite from now on. No more of those harsh words, or if I hear them again, don't expect me to buy you any more luxury goods." Bai Wanwan's eyes widened, her voice rising uncontrollably. "What, you want to marry her? No way, Mom would never agree. A second marriage? What are you thinking? A divorced woman as the young madam of the Bai family? Do you want people to laugh at us until they die? I refuse." The mere thought of being mocked whenever she stepped outside made Bai Wanwan's scalp tingle with dread. She was absolutely unwilling to agree to Bai Yuxiu marrying Jiyu Union. Bai Yuxiu directly picked up an orange from the table, peeled it, and stuffed it into Bai Wanwan's mouth to shut her up. Whether you agree or not doesn't matter, this is my decision, and what's wrong with being divorced? She's such an outstanding person, even if she's been divorced, I might still not be good enough for her. Bai Wanwan was speechless. Brother, I never knew before that you could be such a love-struck fool. Who are you? The Bai heir, in all of Huaju, who doesn't know you, among your peers? Only the fourth son of the Zhon family is beyond your reach, and you're telling me you're not good enough for her. Bai Wanwan laughed, her tone laced with sarcasm. This makes me wonder. Just what kind of god was her ex-husband? Bai Yuxiu, her ex-husband is Zhon Siqing. Bai Wanwan. The siblings locked eyes, and Bai Wanwan immediately let out a hiccup. This is pretty awesome. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Bai Wanwan caught sight of Jiyu Union returning from the restroom out of the corner of her eye and immediately flashed a radiant smile. She stood up, eagerly grabbed Jiyu Union's wrist, and then linked arms with her. Sister Nian. I didn't get to introduce myself earlier before the concert started. I'm Bai Wanwan, my brother's biological sister, just 3 years younger than him. Look, since you and my brother are already in this kind of relationship, why don't we exchange contact info too? Jiyu Union. Bai Yuxiu was utterly speechless, finding his sister's fawning behavior almost too embarrassing to watch. Jiyu Union carefully chose her words and turned to Bai Yuxiu, asking, what did you tell her? Nothing. Nothing at all. Bai Wanwan cheerfully cut off Bai Yuxiu's response, pulling Jiyu Union to sit beside her while giving her a look full of gossipy curiosity. I just heard your ex-husband is Zhon Siqing, and I think that's pretty badass. Wanted to learn a thing or two. Chapter 234, Show some restraint. Jiyu Union was completely choked by Bai Wanwan's words, unsure how to respond. She glanced at Bai Yuxiu, her eyes filled with inquiry. Bai Yuxiu covered his eyes with one hand, let out a long sigh, and tugged at Bai Wanwan. Show some restraint. Bai Wanwan froze for a moment, looking slightly embarrassed. Her peach blossom eyes, identical to Bai Yuxiu's, glistened as she stared at Jiyu Union. Ah, did I scare you? I was just too surprised. I wanted to know how you managed to pluck the unattainable flower. Jiyu Union couldn't help but laugh at her awkward expression. It's fine, there's really not much to tell, but if you're curious, I can share the details with you after the concert. Great. Bai Wanwan was overjoyed. Just then, the person sitting next to her returned, so she stood up and pulled Bai Yuxiu. Brother, go sit over there, I want to sit with Sister Nian. Bai Yuxiu gave Bai Wanwan a deep, profoundly complex look. However, seeing that his sister remained completely oblivious to the meaning behind his gaze, he could only reluctantly yield his seat to her, since no one accompanied her. Bai Wanwan had casually pulled someone from her social circle to come along. Her circle of friends wasn't exclusively composed of people from their social stratum, it also included minor influencers and celebrities whom she could occasionally drag along when she had no one else to accompany her. The person she brought along today happened to be one such minor influencer. She doesn't have many fans, and today she just came to try to get a free ticket. After all, with her abilities, she couldn't possibly get into such a prestigious concert on her own. She thought it would be perfect to film a vlog as a treat for her fans, to make them envious, but she never expected to accidentally capture Bai Yuxiu and Jiyu Union on camera, and even overhear such juicy gossip. Her gaze couldn't help but linger on Jiyu Union. After all, how many socialites dreamed of the 4 young masters of Huaju's battle? She was actually his ex-wife. She narrowed her eyes slightly and discreetly adjusted the camera, trying to casually capture a shot of Jiyu Union's face, but unexpectedly, a large hand suddenly reached over and firmly pressed down on her camera. Delete it. The minor influencer took several deep breaths, her heart pounding wildly. She forced down her panic and put on an innocent look as she stared at Bai Yuxiu. Young Master Bai, I don't know what you're talking about. Bai Yuxiu curled his lips slightly, his peach blossom eyes seemingly brimming with deep amusement. When his gaze fell upon someone, it felt as though he was cradling them in the palm of his hand. The minor influencer's face grew slightly warm. Despite having clung to Bai Wanwan for so long, This was her first time meeting Bai Yuxiu. Unrealistic thoughts surged uncontrollably, and she couldn't help but feel her heart flutter. Delete what you just filmed. Is that so hard to understand? Even if it's your first time hanging out with people in this circle, you should know the rules a little, right? Unlike when he was speaking to Jiyu Yunyan, Bai Yuxiu's voice was icy, his textured tone devoid of any warmth. The little influencer was instantly stunned. Bai, young master Bai. Bai Yuxiu's expression remained unchanged as he simply looked at her calmly. Even if you filmed it, you wouldn't be able to post it, or perhaps you want to use this video to earn yourself a ban from the Jean Corporation. The little influencer hadn't expected someone who seemed so gentle to speak so harshly without any regard for her feelings. She bit her lower lip, somewhat aggrieved. I was just filming a bit of material, nothing else. If you're not okay with it, I'll delete it right away. The little influencer quickly went through the motions of deleting the footage. But her camera model also automatically backed up everything to cloud storage, so deleting it wouldn't have any impact. After deleting everything, she even generously showed Bai Yuxiu, I've cleared it all out, guaranteed nothing inappropriate was left. Bai Yuxiu sneered, what about the cloud storage? The influencer froze, looking slightly uncomfortable. What cloud storage? Bai Yuxiu couldn't be bothered to waste words on her and directly raised his hand to summon the security guard nearby. Then pointed at the camera in her hand, you've captured things you shouldn't have, deal with it. Chapter 235, Sister Nyan Nyan comes with me. Understood, young Master Bai. The security guard nodded and immediately stepped forward to grab the internet celebrity. The little influencer was completely stunned. Being dragged away just like that, Bai Wanwan also noticed the situation and immediately looked over. What's wrong? Bai Yuxiu frowned, his expression not very pleasant. You should interact less with these kinds of people in the future. Be more selective when making friends. Bai Wanwan responded indifferently with an oh, she's not my friend, it's just because you didn't come with me that I randomly pulled someone along. But it's different now. I'll have Sister Nyen Nyen with me from now on. Bai Yuxiu sneered, do you think everyone is as idle as you, a jobless drifter? Bai Wanwan, indignant, raised her chin and retorted. How am I a jobless drifter? I'm a designer. Okay. Facing his sister, Bai Yuxiu didn't hold back and shot back. Then where are your works, your shows? Nothing to show for it, and you call yourself a designer? Bai Wanwan was furious. My works are in progress. Okay, it's not like mass-producing cabbages. It takes inspiration. How can you be such an annoying brother? No wonder you can't win over your wife and are doomed to be single forever. Bai Yuxiu. Jiyu Union watched the siblings quarreling beside them, laughing uncontrollably. Bai Wanwan hugged Jiyu Union's arm aggrievedly. Sister Nyan Tilda is so annoying. Let's ignore him. After the concert ends, let's go eat at the Revolving Sky restaurant together. Without my brother, my treat. No. All my cards are his supplementary cards. Wait for me. I'll ask my dad for some pocket money. Jiyu Uni pursed her lips, her eyes sparkling with playful amusement. Don't worry, if he freezes your card. I've got you covered, my treat, really. Bai Wanwan didn't hesitate to accept. Sister Niani, you're the best. I'll design a special jewelry set just for you, named after you. Before Jiyu Union could answer, Bai Wanwan, as if afraid of being rejected, quickly added, but I don't have any inspiration right now. Do you have time tomorrow? I need to spend more time with Sister Nyen Nyen to find inspiration. Bai Yuxiu, worried that Jiyu Union might believe her nonsense, bluntly exposed her. She's just a clingy person who wants to stick by your side. This so-called exclusive design promise, she's made it to every single one of us in the family. Don't take her seriously. Meeting Bai Wanwan's hopeful gaze, Jiyu Union couldn't bring herself to refuse. It's fine, I'm not too busy these 2 days. Where would you like to go tomorrow? Bai Wanwan's eyes instantly lit up. Yay, there's an auction in the southern part of the city tomorrow. Sister Nyen Nyen, come with me. There's a set of jewelry I'm really interested in. It feels perfect for you. Plus, I heard the world's largest blue sapphire will be appearing at that auction. Jiyu Union nodded in understanding. Since it's something you're interested in, I won't take what you fancy. I actually planned to attend this auction before. Since you're going too, we can go together. Watching Jiyu Union and Jean Sicheng get along so well, Bai Yuxiu sighed helplessly beside them. What was originally a double date arranged by the elders at home was completely ruined by Bai Wanwan. After the concert, Bai Wanwan wanted to take Jiyu Union out for dinner, but Dai Lei suddenly called. There was an urgent matter at the company's overseas branch that needed handling. So Jiyu Union couldn't join them for the meal and could only look at them apologetically. Bai Wanwan sighed with regret. Ah, what a pity. Since the weather isn't cooperating, let's just plan for next time then. Bai Yuxiu picked up his car keys and looked at Jiyu Union. Alright, let's go, I'll give you a ride. Hearing this, Bai Wanwan was stunned for a moment before suddenly turning to Jiyu Union. Sister Nian, didn't you drive here? Then let me take you. I drive more steadily than my brother. Bai Yuxiu couldn't hold back any longer and gritted his teeth as he warned. Bai Wanwan, don't push your luck. Bai Wanwan waved her hand dismissively, snorted, and her face was full of provocation. What's wrong with me just wanting to get close to a beautiful sister? How is that going too far? Brother, just because you're not as likable as me, don't try to oppress me with money. I will never compromise. Chapter 236. Let me see who it is. Bai Yuxiu was nearly driven mad by her. Don't worry. I won't use money to oppress you this time. I'll tell Mom about it when we get back. Bai Wanwan froze, her face blank, then stomped her foot hard and glared at Bai Yuxiu indignantly. You're so unethical. Jiyu Union glanced at her phone and smiled, interrupting their argument. Alright, both of you stop arguing. My assistant is here to pick me up. As soon as she finished speaking, a silver-white car pulled up beside the three of them. The window rolled down, revealing Dai Lei's doll-like face. President, Bai Wanwan's face instantly fell, looking at Jiyu Union with a pitiful expression. Bai Yuxiu wasn't as obvious, but the disappointment in his eyes was clearly visible. Jiyu Union didn't seem to notice much, waving at the siblings. I'm off. Bai Wanwan looked at Jiyu Union with puppy-dog eyes, as if she were a lost little dog, and said pitifully, then I'll call you when the auction starts. You must come. Jiyu Union turned around and gave her an okay sign. Bai Wanwan immediately blew her a flying kiss. In the blink of an eye, the time for the auction arrived, probably afraid that Jiyu Union would stand her up. Bai Wanwan had arranged the time in advance and drove to Junction Building that evening specifically to pick her up. At first, Jiyu Union didn't want to dress up, but Bai Wanwan refused. This is such a waste. Sister Nian, I can't just watch you ruin this divine beauty. Jiyu Union had no choice but to let herself be dragged into the dressing room. She had prepared the Sea Brand's Deep Sea Mermaid series gown for Jiyu Union. The long gown reached all the way to the ankles, its smooth lines shimmering faintly in the light. When Jiyu Union put it on, Bai Wanwan couldn't help but gasp in awe. This is absolutely stunning. Nian, I knew it would suit you the moment I saw it. She was so excited, as if she were happier than if she herself had been dressed beautifully, and immediately pushed Jiyu Union into the hands of the stylist. She had chosen a short white gown for herself. Compared to Jiyu Union's, it might not be as mysteriously breathtaking, but it was undeniably playful and adorable. By the time the two of them arrived at the auction after getting their looks done, the entrance was already packed with luxury cars. The entrance to the auction was bustling with activity, filled with the elite and powerful of Huaju. Along with some A-list celebrities, a crowd of reporters blocked the doorway, their camera flashes dazzling, making it almost impossible to take everything in. Jiyu Union slightly furrowed his brows. But before he could say anything, Bai Wanwan smiled and said, My brother mentioned you prefer to keep a low profile. Don't worry, I've already made arrangements. We'll take the elevator up from the underground parking lot later. Jiyu Union glanced at Bai Wanwan. I thought you'd want to walk the red carpet. Bai Wanwan laughed, her eyes twinkling mischievously. If it were with those minor influencers or celebrities, I would have left, but there's really no point in leaving, it's boring anyway. Might as well enter early with you. Nian Jie. By the way, Nian Jie, do you have your eye on something this time? Jiyu Union nodded. My grandmother's birthday is coming up, and I happened to see a jade Buddha in the auction catalogue that caught my eye. I want to bid on it for her. Bai Wanwan tentatively asked, Nian Jie, are you referring to the Lu family's matriarch? You know about her. GU Union raised an eyebrow at her. Bai Wanwan's mood was somewhat downcast. I went back and did some frantic catching up, only to find out, Nyen Nyen Jia. You're actually the child the Lu family lost over 20 years ago. You must have suffered a lot, right? GU Union shook her head. Not really. I was picked up by my master. And my senior brothers and sisters were all very good to me. You probably know my senior sister too. She's… Before GU Union could finish her sentence, their car was suddenly cut off. The driver in the front seat turned around. Miss, our car has been deliberately blocked. We can't get through now. I'll go down and talk to them. After a short while, the driver returned, his expression extremely grim. Miss, the other party refuses to yield. They said Miss and Miss GU should walk over. Bai Wanwan narrowed her eyes slightly and let out a cold laugh. Such arrogance. I'd like to see who it is. Chapter 237. Whatever you like, I'll buy it for you. She pulled open the car door, about to step out, when suddenly someone approached the front window and said something. The car that had been stubbornly blocking the way moments ago sped off in a flash. Bai Wanwan was almost amused by anger. Did you remember the license plate number? Go find out who it belongs to. The driver nodded and took note of it. After that, apart from that car, there were no more such tactless incidents. They drove all the way to the underground parking garage, only for Bai Wanwan to spot the same car again. Before either of them could get out, a woman she didn't recognize stepped out of the other car. Dressed in an ostentatious manner, she seemed desperate to flaunt her wealth from head to toe. She flicked her chestnut-colored shoulder-length curls and then swayed over with a gentle smile, lightly tapping on GU Union's car window. GU Union raised an eyebrow and exchanged a glance with Bai Wanwan. Bai Wanwan narrowed her eyes slightly and snorted. What does she want? I don't believe for a second she's here to apologize to us. GU Union curled her lips. You're driving your brother's car today, aren't you? Bai Wanwan immediately showed a look of sudden realization. Ah. No wonder she suddenly made way for the car just now. She must have thought my brother was inside and wanted to flirt with him. Uncle Ju, roll down the window. I want to hear what she has to say. The woman outside the window probably genuinely believed that the person sitting inside was Bai Yuxiu. As soon as she saw the car window slowly rolling down, she immediately cooed in a sugary voice. Young Master Bai Tilda. The voice was so seductive and alluring that it sent shivers down GU Union's spine. The woman continued sweetly outside. I didn't realize I was blocking your car earlier. I'm truly sorry. I came specifically to apologize and hope you're not upset. How about I treat you to dinner tonight? At the Yunjing Grand Hotel, perhaps. Their rooftop restaurant has a great view, excellent privacy, and the food is quite delicious. I wonder if young Master Bai would like it. The woman was still smiling. But as soon as she finished speaking and met GU Union's face, she immediately showed a stunned expression. Who are you? Bai Wanwan was almost laughing to death beside her. You don't even know who's sitting in the car, yet you're trying to seduce them. This is the biggest joke I've seen this year. The woman's face instantly darkened, and her expression turned cold. What nonsense are you talking about? Who's trying to seduce anyone? I was just apologizing. Her gaze fell on the clothes GU Union and Bai Wanwan were wearing, and a hint of disdain immediately flashed in her eyes. The dresses the two were wearing, though quite beautiful, were just ordinary high-end custom pieces. Even if GU Union's was slightly more expensive, it didn't reach 10 million. Even the jewelry they wore was minimal, especially GU Union, who surprisingly had nothing around her neck. She snorted. Only people with filthy minds would think such dirty thoughts. I can't be bothered with you. With that, without waiting for Bai Wanwan's reply, she turned on her high heels and walked away. Bai Wanwan's face turned pale with anger. What kind of person is this? They're the ones who are unclean, yet they have the nerve to turn around and mock me. Her cheeks were quite plump, puffing up when she was angry. GU Union couldn't resist giving one of them a playful pinch. Teasing, then why don't you have the venue staff keep her outside? I won't. I want her to watch me outbid her for everything she desires, to see that I'm a woman she can't even hope to match. GU Union couldn't help but laugh at her. All right, go ahead and buy out the entire auction. Bai Wanwan immediately choked up, hesitating before weakly admitting, that won't work. My brother's card probably doesn't have that higher limit. With a smirk, Gu Yunyan's eyes sparkled with amusement. No worries, I've got you, just point out what you like. And I'll bid for you. Bai Wanwan's eyes immediately lit up, but she quickly refused. That won't do, buying so many things is pointless, it's just a waste of money. Besides, that sapphire as the finale item is really expensive. As they chatted, the two of them entered the auction hall. Somehow, as if destined to cross paths, they spotted that woman again right next to their seats. Chapter 238, Second Aunt. The woman looked at Bai Wanwan and Jiu Yunyan with a face full of disdain and disgust. Dong Pei, sitting beside her, noticed her gaze and followed her line of sight. The moment she saw Jiu Yunyan, the smile on her face froze. When their eyes met, Jiu Yunyan completely ignored her. The thought of being blacklisted in the entertainment industry because of her made Dong Pei feel like vomiting blood. Now seeing Jiu Yunyan completely ignoring her again, she instantly lost her composure and couldn't help but speak with sarcasm. Oh, isn't this Miss Jiu? Her gaze swept past Bai Wanwan, curling her lips into a slightly mocking smile as she provocatively looked at Jiu Yunyan. What, didn't even bring a man to accompany you? Hearing this, Jiu Yunyan paused for a moment, raised her eyes to glance at her, and gave a perfunctory smile. What kind of question is that? It's just an auction. What? Does Miss Dong need a man to accompany her to come? Dong Pei's face immediately darkened. Having learned from the last lesson, she didn't dare to drag Zhang Xiqing into it. But she was still very resentful. I was just asking Miss Jiu, wasn't I? Always having men fight your battles for you, surrounded by men like fish in a river. Today you've switched to a woman, and I'm just not used to it. The woman beside her let out a scornful laugh, covering her mouth as she looked at Jiu Yunyan and Bai Wanwan with malice. I was wondering why someone would keep accusing others of seducing men. Turns out they're just projecting their own behavior. Bai Wanwan's face darkened instantly as she glared at the woman and Dong Pei. You'd better watch your mouths, or don't blame me for being rude. Dong Pei smirked, looking at her with mockery. Bai Wanwan, are you really that stupid? What could she possibly want from you? Isn't it just to use you to get close to your brother? And here you are, foolishly letting her manipulate you while shielding her like a loyal pawn. Bai Wanwan rolled her eyes and retorted sharply, seduce my brother? As if, Sister Nyan is so outstanding, my brother isn't even worthy of her. If you can't get a man yourself, don't take it out on others for having admirers. Quit being such a sourpuss, picking fights with everyone, it's disgusting. Dong Pei took a deep breath, her face twisted with anger from the scolding. I'll wait for the day you cry. Don't worry, even if you cry, I won't. I'll only laugh even harder and be even happier. Bai Wanwan lifted her chin, snorted, and pulled Jiu Yunyan by the arm to their seats, grumbling, having to sit with them. What bad luck. Jiu Yunyan curled her lips, her expression slightly indifferent. It's fine, we'll just bid on more items later to ward off the bad luck. Dong Pei scoffed. Quite the big talker. Everything at this auction starts in the hundreds of millions. I heard you're from the countryside, probably didn't know that. Don't end up bidding without the money to pay. If that happens, it won't just be your face that's lost. No sooner had Dong Pei finished speaking than a somewhat disdainful voice rang out above their heads. Just a few 100 million. How petty. Do you think our Nian would lack such a small amount of money? The group looked up to see a lavishly dressed lady standing nearby, casting a contemptuous glance at Dong Pei. Dong Pei's face darkened as she raised her head, about to retort, but upon recognizing Tang Yutong, she immediately fell silent. Jiu Yunyan smiled, a hint of surprise flashing in her eyes. Auntie, what brings you here? Tang Yutong immediately beamed with joy. I just thought I'd drop by to see you and casually pick up a few things to bring home for you to play with. I never expected you'd come here yourself. Feel free to bid on anything you like, even that final blue sapphire if you want. But Auntie has one condition. You must agree to it. Jiu Yunyan was somewhat surprised. What? Tang Yutong cast a faint glance in Dong Pei's direction and then said calmly, no matter what you're shooting, you're not allowed to use your own money. Spend all the 80 billion in pocket money we gave you last time. Oh dear, is 80 billion not enough? I'll have Xiaosai transfer another 100 billion to you. Chapter 239. She's taken all the good things, it's just a bit of pocket money. Our Lu family can certainly afford it. Tang Yutong snorted coldly. And the words she spoke instantly darkened Dong Peipei's face. Dong Peipei clenched her fists, feeling a sour taste in her heart. Her gaze fell on Jiyu Yunyan, and she felt unbearably uncomfortable. A country bumpkin from the countryside. What right did she have? What right did she have to not only receive Zhang Xiqing's protection but also be the granddaughter the Lu family had lost for 20 years? Why should all the good things be monopolized by Jiyu Yunyan? She was particularly indignant and couldn't help but retort to Tang Yutong. From what Madame Lu II is saying, it sounds like you're planning to buy that finale blue sapphire for Jiyu Yunyan. She deliberately emphasized the second. To mock Tang Yutong for pretending to be generous and making empty boasts, as the Lu family was no longer under her and her husband's control, Tang Yutong smiled nonchalantly, showing no sign of anger. Instead, her gaze held a hint of disdain as she looked at her. It's not impossible, just a small sum, really. If Nian likes it, forget one blue sapphire. I'd buy her a stack, with the monthly net profits from old Lu's lab, plus the liquid and fixed assets under his name, and the company dividends. How could we possibly not afford to buy a little stone for our niece? At this point, Tang Yutong suddenly glanced at her. What, are you also interested in that stone? But in an auction. Everyone has a chance, as long as you can afford it, there's no reason you can't bid, though whether you can actually get it is another matter. Tang Yutong laughed. After all, if our Nian likes it, I certainly won't let anyone snatch it away from me. Dong Peipei's face turned pale, then flushed with anger, and she gritted her teeth hard. What was she so proud of? Tang Yutong wasn't from some wealthy family either, she was just flaunting her authority by relying on the Lu family's influence. Dong Peipei glanced at the people around her, deliberately raising her voice as she retorted unwillingly, Madame Lu II, aren't you being too domineering? Just because this is an item your Lu family has taken a fancy to, does that mean no one else is allowed to buy it? Her intention was to stir up anger among the others, hoping they would side with her and join in pressuring Tang Yutong. But to her surprise, the moment these people heard the name of the Lu family, they quickly switched sides. One after another, they fawned obsequiously, saying, "Oh, Madame Lu, if there's anything you want, just let us know in advance, since it's a gift for your niece, of course we wouldn't dream of taking what you desire." Yes, although the items are excellent, we're just buying them for collection. How could it compare to Madame Lu acquiring them? That would be far more meaningful. This isn't a charity auction, after all, if Madame Lu wants it. We certainly won't deliberately drive up the price. The crowd chattered eagerly, afraid that if they spoke too late, Tang Yutong might not hear them or would remember and later make things difficult for their families. The woman who had previously flaunted her superiority to Jiyu Yunyan now sat stiffly beside Dong Peipei, her face ashen, not daring to utter a word. She had no idea that Jiyu Yunyan's background was so formidable. She was actually from the Lu family. Just the thought of what she had just said in front of Jiyu Yunyan made her tremble with fear. Her family background couldn't even compare to Dong Peipei's, so what right did she have to act arrogantly in front of Jiyu Yunyan? She glanced at Dong Peipei discreetly and quietly distanced herself, not wanting to be dragged down by her recklessness. Amidst the clamor of voices, the topic was quickly diverted, and the auction soon began, leaving no room for further discussion. Dong Peipei sat there with a dark expression, exuding an icy aura as she glared at Jiyu Yunyan with a sinister gaze. She barely registered the auctioneer's words, her mind consumed by Tang Yutong's earlier remarks. Blinded by rage, she could only think of outbidding Jiyu Yunyan on whatever item she chose. Having already offended her, she saw no reason to hold back from provoking her further. However, she hadn't anticipated that before Jiyu Yunyan even raised her paddle, she would first spot the blue and white porcelain vase her father had previously taken a liking to. Her father really liked this kind of thing and had specifically asked her to bid on it before she came. Chapter 240. A waste of good things. Her rationality returned for a moment as she remembered her father's instructions. Just as she was about to raise her paddle, the woman sitting next to her lifted hers first, adding another million. Dong Pei was somewhat surprised and gave Jiu Union a puzzled glance. However, since the woman's ticket was given by her, Dong Pei naturally assumed that she was bidding for her. Having her bid might even prevent Jiu Union from driving up the price. She gave the woman an approving glance and then refrained from raising her paddle again. Sitting quietly by the side as she watched the woman bid on her behalf, the porcelain vase was ancient, with a simple and elegant design and a delicate, beautiful color. Although Dong Pei wasn't very knowledgeable about such things, she knew there must be many who admired this vase, so she whispered to the woman, "I'll pay for it later, don't worry about the price, bid whatever it takes, we must win it." The woman gave her a surprised look. "Really?" Dong Pei felt a bit annoyed by her glance. "Just bid quickly. Do you think I'd lie to you?" "Pei, you might not say that later." The woman smiled, her expression somewhat odd, but Dong Pei didn't think much of it. Although the bidding was intense, in the end, the woman successfully won the auction. The waiter carried the porcelain bottle over for them to inspect. Dong Pei finally showed her first genuine smile of the day. "Bring it here." Her words were cut off before she could finish speaking. She stood up and glanced at the waiter. "Bring it over here." Dong Pei's breath hitched instantly. She narrowed her eyes and hissed in a low voice, "Lin Wei, where do you think you're going?" The woman named Lin Wei didn't even turn her head, walking straight to Jiu Union's front with an ingratiating smile on her face. She then said, "Miss Jiu, it was my fault for not recognizing your eminence earlier and offending you. You're magnanimous, so I hope you won't take it to heart. This porcelain vase is something I bid on to apologize to you. I wonder if you like it. If not, should there be any other collectibles you fancy later, I'll bid on them for you as well." Jiu Union gave her a slightly surprised glance. "No need." Lin Wei grew somewhat anxious, thinking that she might not be willing to forgive her. "I'm getting a bit impatient. Miss Jiu, I sincerely apologize to you. Dong Pei also wanted this porcelain vase, but I felt that such an exquisite item suits you better. It would truly be a waste in her hands." Dong Pei's face instantly turned green as she abruptly stood up. "Lin Wei." She stood up abruptly from her seat, strode toward Lin Wei, and grabbed her wrist, staring at her in disbelief. She still remembered there were reporters present. Although she had been blacklisted now, she remained the former queen of the silver screen. The heiress of a wealthy family, and her star power was still immense. She didn't want to be photographed by the reporters on the scene, fearing it would tarnish her reputation if the images spread. Lowering her voice and suppressing her anger, she forced a cold smile and demanded, "Lin Wei, what do you mean by this? Wasn't this vase originally meant for me?" Lin Wei unceremoniously pulled her hand away and gave her a puzzled look. "When did I ever say it was for you? Don't go spreading baseless rumors," I thought. Dong Pei clenched her teeth hard, but before she could finish her sentence, Lin Wei cut her off. Lin Wei completely dropped all pretense of politeness. "Stop with the I thought, we never agreed on anything beforehand. I wanted to speak up earlier when you kept targeting Miss Jiu, but I felt my words wouldn't carry much weight since I'm insignificant. But now, I can't take it anymore. Even if speaking up changes nothing, I have to say it. I'm so sick of your paranoid behavior, acting like everyone is out to steal your man. Let's be clear, Actor Chin has nothing to do with you. Even if he did, he's still entitled to have private friendships with others. You've already offended everyone in the entertainment industry, and now you're bringing that behavior into our circle. The people here aren't like those powerless figures in showbiz who let you push them around. Dong Pei, I advise you to rein it in. How did you suddenly appear here?" Dong Pei was almost laughing from anger. "You're lecturing me, Lin Wei. Think carefully. You're only here because I got you the invitation card. Otherwise, you wouldn't even get past the front gate, and you're using my money to photograph her collection." Lin Wei glanced at her and replied without a hint of guilt, "I never asked you to. You were the one who insisted on paying for no reason. I was actually puzzled. Thinking you might be using me as a vase to apologize to Miss Jiu." Dong Pei was so furious she nearly spat out blood, pointing at Lin Wei. "If I wanted to apologize, I could do it myself. Why would I need you? Stop pretending. I paid for it, and you think you can use my vase to suck up to that bitch." Lin Wei's expression instantly darkened, giving her a disdainful look, calling someone a bitch at the drop of a hat. Are you some street thug, Dong Pei Pei? Your words are so vulgar. Completely lacking the grace and refinement of a well-bred lady. I really wonder how President Dong even raised you. Dong Pei Pei could no longer suppress her rage and swung her hand to slap the woman. Lin Wei, you bitch, you're turning on me just to suck up to GU Union. You're really looking down on me, Dong Pei Pei. After all these years, after all the favors I've given you, even a dog would bark in gratitude. But you bite the hand that feeds you. Lin Wei was sent stumbling by the slap. Swaying unsteadily before collapsing gracefully to the floor, covering her face, she shot Dong Pei Pei a disbelieving look before bursting into pitiful sobs. Dong Pei Pei, are you finally telling the truth today? I know my family background can't compare to yours, but I genuinely wanted to be friends with you before. Even though you're hot-tempered, arrogant, and have so many flaws, I tolerated them all. But I can't stand you treating me like a dog. Making me charge into battle for you and take the blame when things go wrong. You said you gave me benefits. That's hilarious. What benefits did you give me? Those bags you didn't want anymore. It's not like I can't afford them myself. Why would I need your second-hand trash? Don't worry. I'll sort out all that stuff and return it to you as soon as I get back. Lin Wei cried pitifully and beautifully, like pear blossoms bathed in rain, softening the hearts of many men present. Moreover, Dong Pei Pei had a terrible reputation in the circle, so for a time, many people sided with her. Dong Pei Pei had been in the entertainment industry for years. She'd seen plenty of such hypocritical, scheming women. She knew Lin Wei was taking advantage of her downfall to use her as a stepping stone to curry favor with GU Union. She sneered coldly. Did they really think she was made of clay? Lin Wei, I didn't even touch you earlier. This time, I'm really going to hit you. Dong Pei Pei raised her foot and kicked towards Lin Wei. Lin Wei was not about to let herself be hit like that and immediately dodged. One was aggressive while the other was at a disadvantage. Everyone had long heard of Dong Pei Pei's reputation in the circle, so they immediately stepped in to intervene, and the auction house security arrived promptly. As soon as the commotion started, they quickly came over and pulled the two apart. Bai Wanwan sat beside GU Union, watching the drama unfold with a cold sneer. What a dog-eat-dog fight, she remarked. GU Union shook her head with a smile. No need to bother with them. Dong Pei Pei, even after being stopped, refused to back down. She seemed completely out of control, and the sight of Lin Wei's long face made her want to tear it apart. She had just broken free from the security guard and rushed to Lin Wei's side, but before she could take any action, someone suddenly grabbed her. Stop right there. Dong Pei Pei froze, turning her head to see her father's furious, dark expression. Dad, why are you suddenly here? Dong Yuanji, who had arrived in such a hurry that he was still breathing heavily, let out an angry laugh at her words. If you weren't causing trouble here, would I have cancelled an important shareholders' meeting just to come find you? He shouted in rage. The incident here had already been promptly reported to Dong Yuanji. Upon hearing that his daughter had not only offended GU Union but also the Lu family, he was instantly overwhelmed and rushed over in a hurry with his wife. As soon as they entered, what they saw was Dong Pei Pei acting like a madwoman, trying to attack Lin Wei. Chapter 242. Go and apologize now. Seeing that she wasn't confronting GU Union, Dong Yuanji quickly breathed a sigh of relief. Dad, I'm being bullied outside, and not only do you not help me, but you actually side with others to scold me. Dong Pei Pei looked at Dong Yuanji in shock, her eyes filled with hurt. She used to be the undisputed favorite at home, showered with love, but ever since that day she offended GU Union, everything had gone wrong. Now, even her father wasn't on her side, and she couldn't accept it. Blinded by rage, she blurted out, "It's GU Union, isn't it? You're treating me like this to please her, right? That country bumpkin thinks just because she's dressed up as the Lu family's daughter, no one knows her true background. You're all trying to please her to get in good with the Lu and John families. But do you really think either family truly cares about her? If the Lu family truly valued her so much, why didn't they hold a banquet and publicly introduce her identity? If fourth young master Jean really loved her so much, Could he have divorced her for Shun Shujing back then and driven her abroad for 5 years? Slap. Dong Yuanji was so furious that he raised his hand and slapped her. It seems I've been too good to you. I've been apologizing to people outside, while you're here doing your best to offend them. You're really something. Do you think our Dong family is living too comfortably, so you want to cause me more trouble? Mrs. Dong, heartbroken for her daughter, quickly stepped forward to stop him. Shielding Dong Pei, old Dong, why are you hitting our daughter? If she's done wrong, just tell her, let her correct it and apologize. Hitting her like this in front of so many people, how is she supposed to live with this afterward? Dong Yuanji was already seething with anger, and Mrs. Dong's words made his veins bulge with rage. How she lives is none of my concern. Right now, she's the one not letting me live. Back then, when she chased after Qin Jiqing and humiliated herself so badly, you shielded her and wouldn't let me discipline her. Now that she's caused such a huge mess, you still want me to save her face. Li Qiaoyun, have you lost your mind? Mrs. Dong's face abruptly changed at Dong Yuanji's harsh words. All these years since marrying Dong Yuanji, she had never suffered such humiliation, and her eyes instantly reddened. Yet Dong Yuanji acted as if he didn't notice, pointing at Mrs. Dong with a cold laugh. Isn't it just because she thinks I only have one daughter that she dares to act so recklessly? Li Qiaoyun, you can't bear children anymore, but there are plenty of women outside who can. I'd rather father another child and raise them from scratch than let the Dong family fortune be ruined in the hands of you and your daughter. The implications of his words instantly stunned both Dong Pei and Mrs. Dong. Mrs. Dong widened her eyes in disbelief, staring at Dong Yuanji. Old Dong, what are you saying? What I said isn't clear enough. Mr. Dong sneered. No wonder we raised such a blockhead. If this matter isn't handled properly today, we'll divorce immediately, and you can take this idiot and get out. Mrs. Dong was completely stunned, never expecting Dong Yuanji to say such things. She immediately flew into a rage. Dong Yuanji, are you even human? You want to divorce me and throw me out? Dong Yuanji gritted his teeth. Throw you out? I feel like killing you both. Now take her and go apologize to me. Dong Pei screamed. I'm not going. Dong Yuanji gritted his teeth and laughed. Not going? Fine. Get out with your mother right now. I have plenty of heirs. Madame Dong looked hysterical. Dong Yuanji, is that any way for a human to talk? Back when the Dong family was on the verge of bankruptcy, it was me who brought my dowry and the Li family's shares to your house, and together we revived the Dong Corporation. Now that you're successful, you want to burn the bridge after crossing it. Dream on. No way. I won't divorce you. You dare to have an affair and children outside. I'll tear that bitch's face apart. The family of 3 made an ugly scene, and Dong Yuanji felt his dignity had been completely stripped away today. He immediately called for security. Drag these 2 out of here. Chapter 243. I have nothing to do with him. He turned and walked over to Jiyu Yunyan, his face filled with remorse and guilt. President Jiyu, I sincerely apologize. It's my fault for not managing my family properly. I never expected Dong Pei to be so unreasonable, causing you trouble repeatedly. He gritted his teeth and said, I heard today that you were planning to bid on the final blue gemstone. No need for you to spend the money. I'll win it for you later as an apology. I just beg you to be merciful and let the Dong family go. Please don't let Yingfan keep pressuring Dong Enterprises. Jiyu Yunyan's expression remained unchanged as she bluntly refused. No need. If I like something, I'll take the photo myself. As for the pressure from 4th Young Master Zhon, you've come to the wrong person. What 4th Young Master Zhon of Huaju wants to do is beyond the control of an outsider like me. Everyone was left speechless for a long moment upon hearing this. Who in the circle didn't know that Jiyu Yunyan was a woman backed by 2 formidable forces, 4th Young Master Zhon and the Lu family, while she herself was renowned as a golden touch? Zhengshan Investment was currently at the peak of its influence. If any company's project could win her favor, they wouldn't have to worry about profits for the next few years. Dong Yuanji knew Jiyu Yunyan's words were just an excuse and couldn't help but show a bitter smile. President Jiyu, I truly want to apologize to you. The auction on stage was still ongoing. But before he could finish speaking, the surroundings suddenly erupted into chaos. Why isn't Misty Star being auctioned anymore? We all came here for Misty Star, and now you're telling us the auction item has been changed. That is, you must give us an explanation. Changing the auction item right before the auction. If there's no reasonable explanation, we definitely won't accept it. Hearing the commotion below, the host quickly stepped in to control the situation. It's not that we changed the auction item at the last minute, but Lost Star has already been sold, it's now private property, and we can no longer proceed with its auction. However, the host's words did little to calm the crowd. The backlash from the audience grew even more intense than before. The auction hasn't even started yet, and you're saying it's already sold? Are you kidding me? Who bought it? Let them come out here. We didn't even get to see it, and you're telling us it's already been sold. Does that make any sense? Seeing that the situation was truly getting out of control, the host pressed his earpiece to listen to instructions from the backstage. Everyone, please calm down. The sale of Mystic Star was not due to any underhanded dealings on our part. Moreover, young Master Jean-Sai directly offered 80 billion, which led our auction house to decide that Mystic Star would no longer go up for auction. Since there are so many objections now, we'll conduct an on-the-spot survey. If anyone can offer more than 80 billion, they can compete with young Master Jean-Sai right now. Everyone, whether it was the 8 billion or Jean-Sai Shao, everyone was completely stunned. For a moment, not a single sound could be heard in the entire auction hall. The host waited for quite a while and, seeing that no one had anything to say, a very subtle smile curled at the corners of his lips. Since no one present has any objections, the final buyer of the Mystic Star will be Jean-Sai Shao. A waitress in a fiery red cheongsam approached, carrying an exquisite tray. On the tray lay an antique and delicate wooden box, just from the intricately carved patterns on its surface. It was clear that this decorative box was far from cheap, yet no matter how expensive the box was, it paled in comparison to the sapphire inside, which had cost a staggering 80 billion. Everyone's gaze couldn't help but fixate on the waitress's hands. Bai Wanwan sat beside Jiu Union, unable to hide a hint of envy as she turned to tease her. Sister Nyan, could it be that fourth young Master Jean bought this gemstone intending to give it to you? Jiu Union's expression remained indifferent as she replied calmly, what does it have to do with me? Why would he give it to me? Her tone was so matter-of-fact that Bai Wanwan couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. Just as she was about to say something, a staff member on stage suddenly walked down with a tray, heading straight toward Jiu Union. Miss Jiu, the message accompanying this gemstone reads, Eternal Beloved, fourth young Master Jean specifically instructed us to present it to you after winning the bid. Thank you for watching. This is a full-length novel. If you'd like to see the continuation, please leave a comment below saying looking forward to the next part or give the video a like. I'll update promptly based on your feedback. See you next time.